The rebel army has invaded. Run for your lives. Why run? I've heard that wherever the righteous army passes, order is maintained. As long as we don't resist, we'll be fine. The mysterious death of the Dafeng emperor could not be concealed in the end. In an instant, the capital's defense forces were in chaos. No matter how loyal they were to the Dafeng dynasty, they needed hope to see a future. Now the emperor is dead, and at such a critical time. Most of the defending soldiers even began to think that Dafeng's mandate of heaven had been forfeited. Moreover, Lin Yuan took the opportunity to make a move within the capital, entangling most of the entering Dao masters, while the army outside the capital launched a sudden attack. This capital city, painstakingly managed by the Dafeng dynasty for 700 or 800 years, collapsed resoundingly. Whoosh! 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 One by one, entering Dao masters were the first to enter the city. As practitioners of the Dao, their individual strength was formidable. By entering the city first, they could often take control of the situation in the shortest time possible. As for the entering Dao masters, they waited outside the capital, ready to provide support at any moment. Even with Lin Yuan's cultivation over 70 years, less than 200 entering Dao masters had been trained, and some of them had to suppress the already conquered states. The entering Dao masters are the foundation and certainly cannot enter the capital lightly. Even if the city gates were breached, who knows if there were contingencies in place that could kill the masters. No matter how strong the entering Dao masters are, they are essentially mortal. An arm severed would be a severe injury, and a shattered heart or head would lead to sure death. No matter how powerful the spiritual power, without the support of a physical body, it would quickly dissipate like smoke. Outside the royal palace, a large group of armored generals was full of excitement as they gazed at the splendid palace and pavilions not far away. The experiences on this journey now seemed like a dream. Too smooth. So smooth that it was almost unbelievable. Since ancient times, overthrowing a dynasty has required an unknown amount of sacrifice. Surely, wave after wave of rebels had to die, exhausting the last strength of the dynasty to make it possible. Not to mention a dynasty like the Dafeng dynasty, which was at its peak. A dynasty like this almost has no possibility of demise as long as the emperor doesn't act recklessly. With Dafeng dynasty's control over the states, there was simply no room for rebellion. Even a third-rate force like the Red Lotus sect, which only had ordinary Dao practitioners, was swiftly annihilated by the Tao Suppression Department's strategic setup, let alone other slightly noticeable rebel forces. There was no space for survival at all. Yet since their uprising, they had been going smoothly without encountering any substantial resistance. In a blink, they were at the capital. Originally, they thought breaching the capital would be a tough battle. After all, realizing they couldn't hold off, the Dafeng dynasty had gathered all its forces back to the capital as much as possible. Combined with the capital's original foundation, it was considered one of the strongest forces under heaven. But just at this time, news of the Dafeng emperor's death came. And at the critical moment, the entering Dao masters defending the city were all restrained and suppressed. The external army needed just one charge to break in. "We've overthrown Dafeng?" One of the rough-built generals murmured to himself. "Not us." A middle-aged scholar glanced at the general, shook his head and said, "It was the Lord. It was the Lord who overthrew the Dafeng dynasty, and we are merely following him." The middle-aged scholar added. Upon saying this, the many other generals uncharacteristically had no objections. Anyone able to occupy their position naturally had good judgment. Since the army's rebellion, it had been smooth sailing, encountering no real resistance. Who did they rely on? Wasn't it the Lord's strategy behind the scenes? Without the Lord, let alone reaching here, they couldn't have even left their respective major states. At the founding of the Dafeng dynasty, for local armies like theirs, there were heavy restrictions long in place. An uprising in one state, neighboring states would immediately dispatch troops to seal it off, with the capital commanding the whole suppressed. This practically cut off the possibility of a successful rebellion. Unless the Dafeng dynasty truly fell into its twilight, losing control over the states. And this was evidently far from the case. Moreover, not long after they reached outside the capital, they heard news of the emperor's death. If this wasn't related to the Lord, who would believe it? The Defeng emperor didn't die early or late, but chose to die just when we were about to engage in the decisive battle. One could say that in this uprising, to overthrow the Defeng dynasty, the one who truly played a decisive role was the Lord. With the Lord present, even if it wasn't them, even a dog could have overthrown Defeng. Without the Lord, even if their force was 10 or 100 times stronger, they couldn't have so easily breached the capital. Where is the Lord now? Another general looked up and asked. After breaking into the capital, they quickly took control of the city. Then they waited outside the royal palace, waiting for the Lord to arrive. Breaking into the capital was not the same as entering the royal palace. Only the latter truly signified the overthrow of Defeng dynasty's rule. And such achievements they dared not assume lightly. Honestly speaking, everyone felt they hadn't contributed much in this uprising at all. Not because they were incompetent, but there was simply no opportunity to prove themselves. Just wait. The middle-aged scholar glanced at the many generals and waited patiently. No one dared to enter the royal palace without the Lord. On a certain street, Lin Yuan was deep in thought. After killing the Defeng emperor, Lin Yuan searched the palace again to ensure there was no second emperor hiding. Then he went to the city wall to suppress the numerous entering Dao masters guarding it. In this way, the outside army smoothly breaks through. After completing all of this, Lin Yuan did not join the army. Instead, he walked quietly along the streets of the capital. A vast spiritual power enveloped a radius of kilometers, every detail within his perception. To kill the Defeng emperor would end this time loop. Lin Yuan easily inferred that the Defeng emperor he killed was not truly the Defeng emperor, but most likely a puppet. This puppet was definitely orchestrated by the real Defeng emperor. Otherwise, it couldn't have fooled the court officials and numerous royal family members. Without the real emperor's cooperation and tacit approval, this scene could not have occurred. Within the palace, so many entering Dao masters are not blind. It was simply impossible for the emperor to be silently replaced. That is to say, the true Defeng emperor is not dead. The test of the time loop comes from the supreme rules. Absolutely fair. It stated that killing the Defeng emperor would pass the test. So it's certain to pass the test. There is no possibility of changing the target midway. Why did the emperor specially cultivate a puppet to replace himself? Lin Yuan quickly pondered. Throughout the history of this world, there have indeed been instances of emperors cultivating puppets to attend court on their behalf. But those usually happened during times of unrest, when the dynasty's power was extremely weakened, and the emperor's move was out of necessity to thwart numerous assassinations. Before the rebellion, the Defeng dynasty was at its peak. Even if Lin Yuan personally attempted an assassination, based on conclusions from observing the timeline, it was highly likely to fail. In such a situation, there was no need for the emperor to cultivate a puppet. If he was absolutely safe, why cultivate a puppet to replace himself? And even if cultivating a puppet, he wouldn't be too far from the puppet to control it at any time. But Lin Yuan just explored the entire imperial palace, now with most of the capital virtually mapped out, without finding any trace of a second emperor. Could it be that the real emperor is not in the capital? To cultivate a puppet emperor just like himself, not keeping it under his tight grasp, and actively leaving the capital? Isn't he afraid the puppet will become the real emperor? In fact, according to the information that Lin Yuan gathered over the past 4 to 50 years, this puppet emperor is no different from the true emperor. Basically, he had complete control over the military and government of the Defeng dynasty. Otherwise, Lin Yuan wouldn't have acted directly upon seeing this emperor. Did the real Defeng emperor cultivate a puppet and then disappear, allowing the puppet to become the real emperor? Lin Yuan's expression revealed a trace of oddness. Could it be that the real Defeng emperor didn't want to be emperor? But if he really didn't want to be emperor, he could simply abdicate and choose an heir from the royal children. Couldn't he? There's no need to be so troublesome. Granting power to a puppet emperor, once the puppet emperor holds power, there will definitely be murderous intent towards the true emperor. Unless, Lin Yuan thought to himself, unless the real Defeng emperor had long known that someone wanted to kill him. So he quietly did a shell escape, leaving a nominal puppet to attract attention, while he hid somewhere unknown. Could this be the real difficulty of the time loop test? Did the other party know about my intention to kill the emperor a long time ago? Lin Yuan concluded that only this could explain the matter of the puppet emperor. Moreover, the real Defeng emperor also deduced that he definitely couldn't stand a chance against me, so there wasn't even an intention to preemptively stop it? Lin Yuan speculated deeply. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a lack of resistance at all, just abandoning the throne and running away. Abandoning the Defeng throne, handing over the empire of 99 provinces to a puppet? Such courage, not everyone could have it. In the past 4 to 50 years, the Defeng emperor's daily life has been under my surveillance, so the puppet replacement definitely didn't happen during these 4 to 50 years, which means it was earlier than that? And cultivating such a puppet nearly identical to oneself cannot be done in a short time. It takes at least 20 to 30 years. 4 to 50 years plus 20 to 30 years, 80 to 100 years? Close to the time point I arrived in this time loop, Lin Yuan stopped walking. A series of illusory texts flashed beneath his gaze. It was the timeline of a particular person. The owner of this timeline was the puppet emperor Lin Yuan killed. This time loop world has a near-tyrannical suppression on the rules of the Great Way. Lin Yuan was far from being able just to recite the opponent's name to establish causality and further observe their timeline. Only by forming a significant causal connection with the other party voluntarily could one observe their timeline. Like Lin Yuan's relationship with Third Uncle allows him to observe Third Uncle's future and past timelines actively. When Lin Yuan took action to kill that puppet emperor, naturally a key causal line was established between them. However, due to the time loop world's influence, forming this causal line took time, and only now was it fully formed. Lin Yuan also started observing the past timeline of the puppet emperor through causality. Since the puppet emperor was dead, no future timeline existed. What Lin Yuan was observing was the past timeline. A year ago, intelligence from the Tao Suppression Department revealed that the cause of the chaos across the 99 provinces originated from the Black Wind Village in the Black Mountains. Kill, these thieves should all be killed. 10 years ago, the new concubine taken into the palace recently. What delightful taste. 20 years ago, when will I become an entering Tao master? 30 years ago, those old ministers in the court really deserve to die. Don't get angry. I'm the emperor now, I can't get angry. 40 years ago, almost no one could tell if I was the real emperor. 50 years ago, just now the master found me, asked me to take his place, and the master's identity was actually the emperor of Defeng. Am I the emperor now? 70 years ago, if the master hadn't found me, I, a beggar, would have probably frozen to death long ago. I must repay my master in the future. The past moments of the puppet emperor, all presented in words before Lin Yuan. Though certainly not the entirety, as this ability to view timelines is greatly suppressed. But through these words, Lin Yuan roughly learned everything he wanted to know. As expected, a puppet emperor. Lin Yuan's expression was slightly heavy. The real emperor of Defeng disappeared 50 years ago, and the time they started cultivating the puppet emperor was 70 years ago, which is when I first arrived in this time loop world. A strange look appeared on Lin Yuan's face. As soon as he arrived in this time loop world, did they begin to cultivate a puppet? Too much of a coincidence. If the real emperor of Defeng knew ahead of time that I wanted to kill him, and there was no way to stop it, he should have started cultivating much earlier. Why did it happen to be right when I arrived? If the emperor of Defeng learned of my intention to kill him at the very time of my arrival, even knowing there was no chance to resist, he wouldn't have immediately started training a puppet without any hesitation. There might be an element of coincidence, but Lin Yuan still found it too coincidental. Unfortunately, I have no contact with this real emperor of Defeng, so I cannot establish any crucial causal relationship to observe the other party's timeline. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. He could observe the puppet emperor's timeline because he had killed him, creating important causality. But the real emperor of Defeng? He disappeared 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, Lin Yuan, though he was above the average entering Dao master in strength, he definitely didn't have the strength to forcibly enter the palace of Defeng. Even knowing today's scene back then, there was no way to establish any causal relationship. Even now, Lin Yuan had to rely on Lin Dajun's interference to successfully enter the palace. However, it's not without gains. At least I know the real emperor of Defeng is still alive, hiding somewhere in this world. I just need to find him. Lin Yuan thought to himself, then stepped forward. In front of the palace, many warriors and scholars were waiting patiently, until Lin Yuan's figure appeared. "Greetings, master." Everyone immediately kneeled on one knee, respectfully toward Lin Yuan. The more they reviewed this rebellion, the more they realized Lin Yuan's terrifying prowess. Past dynasties perished due to weakness, but the Defeng dynasty perished at its peak. The driving force behind everything was Lin Yuan. With his efforts, he orchestrated across 99 provinces, eventually pushing the Defeng dynasty into the abyss step by step. Even those who were close confidants of the ruler were in awe. "Rise." Lin Yuan glanced at the palace not far away and said casually. He had already entered this palace, and had no curiosity about what was inside. "The army entered the city, without disturbing the common people?" Lin Yuan asked. In this rebellion, Lin Yuan's target was only the emperor of Defeng. There was not much malice towards the people. In fact, he set rules to minimize the impact on the people during the invasion. The small countries around Defeng were basically infiltrated by Lin Yuan without committing any plundering against the people during such chaotic times. Reporting to the Lord, the soldiers did not commit any offense. The generals immediately responded, mainly because the battle went too smoothly. "Master, the Defeng is in chaos. The master should establish a new dynasty and reunify the world," one of the strategists immediately suggested. This was inevitable, overthrowing the old dynasty and establishing a new one. It was completely expected, and necessary for the expansion of the turmoil. Lin Yuan nodded. Now the real emperor of Defeng is missing. Lin Yuan still needs the power of the world to search for his whereabouts. "I don't know what to name the new dynasty," the strategist cautiously asked. "Dynasty name?" Lin Yuan thought for a moment. "Let's call it Greater Yen." On the third crossing, when Lin Yuan arrived in the world ruled by the divine weapon, he became the Prince of Greater Yen. This time, establishing a new dynasty, Lin Yuan directly used the name Greater Yen to save the trouble of coming up with a new one. "Greater Yen, good. Let it be Greater Yen." The generals exchanged glances, their expressions excited. With the founding of Greater Yen, they would all become founding heroes. Next, Lin Yuan issued a series of orders to stabilize the situation in the newly established dynasty. Not to mention that by the third crossing he already had experience in being an emperor. Even within human civilizations, he had accumulated a wealth of lessons from ruling different dynasties. Establishing a new dynasty, Lin Yuan was adept at it. And Lin Yuan looked at the generals and strategists. "Next, search for all people and things related to the remnants of Defeng. I want to personally review all information and clues." The purpose of this command was to find the real emperor of Defeng, who disappeared 50 years ago. Unless this real emperor of Defeng retired into complete seclusion. Otherwise, even hidden somewhere in the world, he would likely establish contact with the outside world. For instance, what about living supplies, etc.? As long as there is an exchange with the outside world, clues will be left behind. Thus, there exists the possibility of being discovered. After the establishment of the Greater Yen dynasty, Lin Yuan will found an intelligence organization specifically responsible for searching for the true Defeng emperor. Yes, everyone immediately nodded. They were not surprised by Lin Yuan's search for the remnants of the Defeng dynasty. Basically, every successive ruler would cleanse the previous dynasty's royal descendants. First, to eliminate hidden threats. Second, because reaching the point of rebellion surely means irreconcilable conflicts with the dynasty itself, such as deep-seated grievances. The Defeng dynasty was overthrown. The Greater Yan dynasty was established. The alternation between the new and old dynasties did not significantly impact the common people of the 99 prefectures, primarily because the transition of rulers was so silent and discreet. Lin Yuan spent 70 years planning and scheming, successfully infiltrating the entire Defeng dynasty cleanly. The transfer of power across the prefectures was exceptionally smooth and within Lin Yuan's expectations. Many commoners only heard the news of the uprising one day and the announcement of the newly established Greater Yan dynasty the next day. First year of Great Yan. The ancestor ascended the throne, ruling the world. Within the palace, the white-haired third uncle looked bewilderedly at the magnificent palace and pavilions before him. Next to him stood Lin Yuan, smiling. This is... The white-haired third uncle fell silent, his expression incredulous. The Defeng dynasty was really overthrown. The sect leader's son established a new dynasty called Greater Yan? The white-haired third uncle felt a bit terrified, though he knew long ago that Lin Yuan would inevitably soar to great heights. But to overthrow the Defeng dynasty? And establish a new dynasty? Young master, am I not dreaming? The white-haired third uncle murmured. Naturally not a dream, Lin Yuan said with a beaming smile. Currently, the only person he could call family in this cyclical world was third uncle. Now is the first year of Great Yan, Lin Yuan said with a smile. Yes, first year of Great Yan. I'm not dreaming. Third uncle grinned and said, I didn't expect that I, Lu San, could see the day when the young master establishes a new dynasty. It's just a pity that Big Brother can't see it. Third uncle's expression darkened, referring to the former Red Lotus sect leader, who was the father of the body Lin Yuan now inhabited. If it weren't for the Red Lotus sect leader sacrificing his life to hold back the Tao Suppression Department's Taoists back then, he and third uncle would never have had the chance to escape. Once I break through the time loop, I might try to resurrect everyone. Lin Yuan thought in his heart. He didn't have confidence in this matter. After all, the time loop, in theory, was a world formed under the operation of supreme rules. No one was certain if the lives within had ever truly existed. The 13-tiered temporal beings he'd encountered never attempted to resurrect lives from within the time loop. Within the time loop world, everything experienced was like a dream. The 13-tiered temporal beings who had cultivated for an eternity were often indifferent to related emotions such as familial ties. But Lin Yuan was different. From his first steps on the path of evolution to now, hadn't been that long. He still valued relationships relatively. If resurrecting within the time loop was a simple matter, Lin Yuan would genuinely consider doing it. A month later, the white-haired third uncle passed away. Lin Yuan couldn't do anything about it, even though he tried to smooth third uncle's vitality flows. But third uncle couldn't master the flow of vitality as perfectly as Lin Yuan. Living to nearly 130 years was already quite astonishing. All who could be considered my family, those from the past, are gone. Lin Yuan thought silently in his heart. Only you remain, Defeng Emperor. Now Lin Yuan, in this world, only had the old acquaintance of the Defeng Emperor left. 2 months later, beneath the former capital of the Defeng Empire, here was the most abundant earth fire cave in the 99 prefectures, a holy land coveted by all crafting masters. Before the establishment of Greater Yan, this earth fire cave was controlled by the previous dynasty. Now this earth fire cave was sealed by numerous imperial guards. The former crafting masters were tremblingly kneeling. At this moment, a figure slowly walked in. It was Lin Yuan. Greetings, Your Majesty. Greetings, Your Majesty. All the crafting masters kowtowed in fear. Rise. Lin Yuan did not make things difficult for these crafting masters and glanced around. I remember all the original divine gold collected by the Defeng dynasty is stored here, right? Original divine gold is the hardest metal of heaven and earth, and it was what Defeng ancestor intended to use to forge 9 cauldrons. Because of its hardness, melting it would take enormous time, with a fist-sized chunk of original fine gold taking at least a century to melt fully. Hence, every time the Dafeng dynasty collected a piece of original divine gold, it was immediately sent to this earth fire cave for melting, in preparation to quickly forge the 9 cauldrons when enough was gathered. Your Majesty, I don't know. The lead crafting master was trembling. Since I took over this earth fire cave, I haven't found any original divine gold. Is that so? Lin Yuan glanced at the person, and with a cause and effect relationship, he began to observe their past timeline. After confirming that the person wasn't lying, Lin Yuan continued to ask, who was in charge of this earth fire cave before you? Before leaving to establish the Greater Yan dynasty, Lin Yuan began thoroughly investigating any traces related to the true Dafeng emperor within the palace. By observing the timelines, Lin Yuan quickly noticed the absence of original fine gold. No doubt about it. All original fine gold collected by the Dafeng dynasty had vanished. It was my grandfather. An older crafting master mustered the courage to speak. Your grandfather, where is he now? Lin Yuan asked. He disappeared. My grandfather vanished suddenly 70 years ago, this crafting master truthfully said. Back then I was young, and this is what I heard from my father. Shortly afterward, my father disappeared too. 70 years ago? Lin Yuan squinted. Combining other information he gathered, he could almost confirm. The disappearance of all original fine gold of the Dafeng dynasty was related to the true Dafeng emperor he sought. Because the disappearance of the original divine gold occurred around 70 years ago, when all the crafting masters of this earth fire cave also vanished. It wasn't until 30 years ago that this earth fire cave was reactivated and new crafting masters entered. Furthermore, as the original divine gold came with Dafeng ancestors' edict, who else but the reigning Dafeng emperor could use it? Dafeng emperor, what did you forge with so much original divine gold? Lin Yuan pondered silently, while several speculations formed in his mind. These speculations gave Lin Yuan new insight into the true Dafeng emperor who had disappeared. Returning to the palace, Lin Yuan then issued another order. A reward for any large piece of original fine gold found, bestowing a title and rewarding 10,000 gold coins. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan himself began traveling the land, searching for traces of original divine gold. The disappearance of all the original divine gold from the earth fire cave was at the hands of the true Dafeng emperor. There was definitely a significant connection between the two. If the missing original divine gold could be found, he estimated that he could find the Dafeng emperor who vanished 50 years ago. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, 80 years had passed. Outside a highly secretive valley, elite soldiers in armor were scattered inside and out, the area completely sealed off, allowing no one to approach. Within the valley, a group of men and women, old and young, gathered with expressions of fear and despair, yet not daring to resist in the slightest, only able to wait for the final judgment to come. Didn't expect the last remnants of the previous dynasty to be hiding here. It certainly made our search worthwhile. The leader was a fierce-looking man named LV Ju, who eyed each person in the valley and instructed the elite soldiers beside him. Keep a close watch. Don't let a single one escape. Yes. The soldiers on both sides nodded, then hesitated. Sir, how long should we keep watch? I've already reported to the court. Surely someone will soon arrive to take away these remnants of the previous dynasty. LV Ju scanned the area. Discovering the remnants of the previous dynasty is a great merit. You'll all be rewarded. Since the establishment of the great Yan ancestors' rule, a bounty had been placed for the search for remnants of the previous dynasty. Over the past 80 years, many had risen to high status upon such discoveries. Unfortunately, with the passage of time, there were fewer and fewer remnants, and in the last decade, there has been no news at all. LV Ju believed that the remnants in the valley he discovered were likely the last of the Dafeng dynasty. Every time remnants were found in the past, the court always sent people to take them away. It's puzzling why it's so troublesome. LV Ju privately thought that in his view, discovering remnants meant they should be killed outright to prevent future troubles. Why bother taking them away? However, this was an order from the emperor of the great Yen ancestor, and LV naturally did not dare to object. In today's world, the great Yen ancestor was akin to a divine being. This status didn't derive from power but from a series of policies implemented after the founding of Greater Yen. Compared to the previous dynasty, Greater Yen was far more lenient to the people, not only reducing taxes and labor but also proactively educating the masses, something unimaginable in previous dynasties. LV also admired the great Yen ancestor greatly. During the 30th anniversary of Great Yen's founding, he traveled to the capital just to catch a distant glimpse of the great Yen ancestor. A moment later, outside the valley, an unknown young man appeared. The young man was dressed in plain clothes, his expression calm, showing no fear despite the elite soldiers sealing the valley inside and out. This should be where Liang the eunuch from the former Defeng Palace and his descendants are hiding. The young man was Lin Yuan, who looked distantly at the valley. Liang, who served the last emperor of Defeng for decades, was exiled from the palace due to a single mistake before the capital was besieged and then disappeared. Not long ago, while traveling the world, Lin Yuan learned of this matter and rushed over personally. "Who are you? This area is sealed off. Leave immediately." The patrolling soldiers quickly noticed the young man's presence and harshly reprimanded him. Lin Yuan glanced at the soldiers without difficulty and took out a token from his bosom. The token was crimson with the character Yen inscribed on its surface. Since the founding of Greater Yen, Lin Yuan spent most of his time traveling the world, searching for the true emperor of Defeng's whereabouts. Traveling the world naturally required a protective identity to command nearby forces at any time, so he carried this token instead of revealing his imperial identity. This token represented the Greater Yen dynasty and could command local authorities at any moment. The Great Yen Order? All the soldiers' expressions slightly changed, quickly bowing to Lin Yuan. This must be the person sent by the court to take away the remnants of the previous dynasty. A soldier thought privately. Only those at the court's higher echelons could possess the Great Yen Order. It was a token issued personally by the ancestor, symbolizing an indescribably prestigious status. Soon enough, LV hurried out upon the report from his soldiers. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, his expression quivered, and he dropped to his knees. "LV Garrison Commander of Cheong State, greets your Majesty. You recognize me?" Lin Yuan looked at LV slightly longer. As the Great Yen founding ancestor, Lin Yuan rarely appeared in front of others, often journeying through the world. "In Great Yan's 30th year, I was fortunate to catch a glimpse of your Majesty from afar at the capital," LV quickly explained. Although it was only a distant glance, it left an incredibly deep impression on LV, and even after 50 years, he recognized Lin Yuan at a glance. Lin Yuan nodded. In Great Yan's 30th year, he indeed made a visit to the capital. "Are they all inside?" Lin Yuan didn't waste words. "They are all inside," LV immediately replied. "Have everyone withdraw, wait outside," Lin Yuan ordered. In the past, when discovering Defeng remnants, they were escorted to the capital before Lin Yuan personally interacted with them. "Yes," LV nodded, then hesitated. "Your Majesty, these remnants of the previous dynasty were somewhat unruly when I first sealed the site, encountering resistance." LV worried for Lin Yuan's safety. As if all soldiers withdrew, wouldn't Lin Yuan face the remnants alone? If anything were to happen, even being torn apart wouldn't suffice as punishment for LV. "Rest assured, I know my limits," Lin Yuan said casually. Even 80 years ago, his power had reached the pinnacle of this world. It was the pinnacle of this world, not just the extremity of Tao masters throughout history. Now, 80 years later, Lin Yuan's power had improved significantly, with few creatures in the world able to harm him. "Very well." LV hesitated for a moment but complied with Lin Yuan's instructions to withdraw all the soldiers. When Lin Yuan walked into the valley, the many soldiers guarding outside immediately stirred. They all witnessed Lu Ju's behavior just now. "His Majesty?" Lu Ju addressed that young man as His Majesty? In the entire Greater Yan dynasty, the only one eligible to be called His Majesty is the Great Yan Ancestor. In the 80 years since the Greater Yan was founded, the ancestor has always been in power, and there has not been a second emperor in the Greater Yan dynasty. General, was that the ancestor just now? The ancestor looks so young. How does he look even younger than me? The ancestor overthrew the former regime and established the Greater Yan 80 years ago, and now 80 years have passed, yet he still looks so young? The soldiers were all exhilarated. Being able to see the ancestor personally was enough for them to boast for a lifetime. Keep it down, His Majesty is still inside. Lu Ju frowned as he glanced at the many soldiers, and the area immediately quieted down. His Majesty! At this moment, Lu Ju's heart was also exceptionally shocked, as he realized that the His Majesty he saw was unusually young, not different from 50 years ago. 50 years ago, he was only 19, and as 50 years passed, he was now 69, already showing signs of old age. And His Majesty? Having overthrown the former regime 80 years ago, he should have been at least over 20 years old, now at least over 100 years old, even for an entering Tao master approaching the limit of lifespan. Inside the valley, several hundred men, women, old and young trembled with fear. At this moment, they realized that all the soldiers had withdrawn. Then a young man walked in. This young man had completely restrained his presence, making the men, women, old and young feel he wasn't even as strong as a random elite soldier from earlier. Yet now all the elite soldiers had withdrawn, and it was this young man who came in, evidently indicating that the latter held a high rank, able to command all the soldiers. Who are you? At this moment, an old man with graying hair stepped forward from among the men, women, old and young, looking at Lin Yuan, inquiring cautiously. You don't need to know who I am. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. Who knows Liang Qin? Liang Qin was the eunuch who had served the last emperor of Dafeng. It was said that Liang Qin had served from when the last Dafeng emperor was still a crown prince until 20 years before Dafeng's fall. When he was expelled from the palace, his life and death unknown. I know him. The graying-haired old man was silent for a while, then opened his mouth. I was an adopted son of Liang Qin, intending to return to our hometown together, but later heard that Dafeng had fallen, so I hid here. Did Liang Qin tell you anything? About the last Dafeng emperor? Lin Yuan asked. In fact, at this moment, Lin Yuan was already observing the other party's past timeline, thereby locking onto the parts related to Liang Qin. Perhaps from this eunuch who served the last Dafeng emperor for decades, he could detect some traces of the other party. He said a few things. The graying-haired old man said, I can tell you everything, but as for the Dafeng dynasty, it has nothing to do with these people. You may kill me if you'd like. Speak. Lin Yuan looked at him. During his return to his hometown, my foster father told me that during the decades he served, the personality of the Dafeng emperor underwent 2 subtle changes. 2 subtle changes? Lin Yuan's expression became contemplative. The first was 2 years after his accession. Initially highly interested in state affairs, the Dafeng emperor suddenly became immersed in Taoist cultivation, spending most of his time in the Tao Pavilion. The graying-haired old man said, the Tao Pavilion was where Dafeng stored a multitude of entering Tao secret techniques. Afterward, when my foster father cleaned the Tao Pavilion, he found that besides studying the normal cultivation methods, the emperor was very interested in some secret techniques, such as those for restraining one's presence and reducing the fluctuations of vitality and mind. He spent a lot of time watching these types of secret techniques. The graying-haired old man said. Continue. Lin Yuan nodded. The second change happened about 10 or 20 years later. After serving the emperor for decades, my foster father vaguely felt that the emperor seems to have been replaced. Even though the behavior and personality were identical, there was just that sense. The graying-haired old man said. When Liang Qin told him about this matter, he had specially exhorted him never to let it spread. Otherwise, there would be the disaster of beheading. But now that the Dafeng dynasty had fallen for 80 years, saying it was no longer a problem, Lin Yuan's expression fell into brief thought. According to the graying-haired old man, based on the second subtle change in the Dafeng emperor, he could speculate the cause. It was exactly at the time when a substitute had taken the place. No matter how much a substitute resembled the original, ultimately, they are not the same person. Ministers or even close relatives might not be able to perceive. But as the eunuch attending to the emperor, Liang Gonggong certainly wouldn't be utterly ignorant. Understood. Lin Yuan nodded. He had already obtained the key information he wanted to know. As for whether the graying-haired old man was lying or hiding anything, Lin Yuan had already observed the other's past timeline several times, ensuring there was nothing overlooked. Sir, indeed I had connections with the former regime, but none of the other people did. They were all born after the Greater Yen was established. They are people of the Greater Yen. The graying-haired old man immediately pleaded. Don't worry. You can all live. Lin Yuan glanced at the trembling crowd and spoke. He was not a person who revels in killing, and if it didn't concern his own interests, he wouldn't kill innocently. From the beginning to now, Lin Yuan was only targeting the Defeng Emperor. As for the numerous remnants of Defeng sent to the court over the last 80 years, once confirmed that these people also knew nothing about the Defeng Emperor, Lin Yuan did not kill them all but instead housed them in a small town. Outside the valley, LV Ju watched Lin Yuan walk out, immediately moving closer. Your Majesty, I'm leaving first. Lin Yuan glanced at him. What about the people inside? LV Ju asked in a low voice. Don't worry. Let them all go. Lin Yuan said. Yes. LV Ju immediately bowed and said. When he looked up again, he found that Lin Yuan had already vanished. Your Majesty. LV Ju composed himself, staring into the empty distance, feeling somewhat dazed. Did he really just see the Taizu of the Greater Yen dynasty? Atop a mountain peak, where it was steep and rugged, even an entering Dao master would find it hard to reach. But at this moment, a young man was sitting on a giant rock at the peak. The young man looked downwards, his thoughts rather complex. That Defeng Emperor used all the original divine gold, not to follow the Taizu's will to forge 9 cauldrons, but to make a coffin? Lin Yuan pondered. Over 80 years, he exerted the power of the entire world and roughly figured out what the original divine gold was ultimately forged into. No matter how the Defeng Emperor tried to hide it, even erasing all craftsmen who participated in the forging. But once it's done, traces remain, and with Lin Yuan's ability to view past timelines, after spending some time, he finally uncovered everything. The fact that the Defeng Emperor forged a coffin instead of the 9 cauldrons left Lin Yuan speechless. A coffin forged with a large amount of original divine gold, once completely sealed, is almost impossible to open by external forces. Even if thrown back into the earth fire cave and melted by the scorching earth fire, due to the coffin's size, it would take at least hundreds of years to melt halfway. To fully melt it, it would take an estimated 600 to 700 years. Moreover, he also comprehended numerous secret techniques to conceal his aura and reduce spiritual and physical fluctuations. Trying to comprehend the art of feigned death, Lin Yuan speculated deeply. If that Defeng Emperor operated the art of feigned death and hid inside the coffin made entirely of original divine gold, then placed the coffin somewhere, who in the world could kill him? But why would this Defeng Emperor do such a thing? Using the art of feigned death to hide in the original divine gold coffin, how is that different from true death? Rather cling to life in such a way than be killed by me. It's not just as simple as knowing in advance that I want to kill him. Lin Yuan gently shook his head. This Defeng Emperor, like me, has fallen into this time loop world, but my trial is to kill him, while his trial is to survive. In 80 years, with the help of various clues and his observations, Lin Yuan finally reached this incredibly astonishing conclusion. If the Defeng Emperor were a native of this time loop world, he would certainly not behave this way. He could have negotiated with me, exchanging his life for the continuation of the Defeng dynasty. Instead of ending up like now, with the Defeng dynasty perishing and the Defeng Emperor hiding in a coffin, clinging to life akin to being dead. Is this the real test I'm facing? Someone like me, from the outside world, who knows in advance that I will definitely be able to kill him? Lin Yuan also felt troubled. If he had known these things earlier, he would have infiltrated the imperial palace when he first traversed, establishing a connection with the Dafeng Emperor beforehand. That way, no matter where the opponent hid, he could know. A month later, on the eastern coast, the East Sea is also known as the Deep Sea, called the Endless East Sea or the Endless Deep Sea. Lin Yuan looked out with his hands behind his back. For 80 years, he had traversed almost every corner of the land. At each location, he would observe future timelines, attempting to conduct a comprehensive search of that position within that timeline, including digging tens of thousands of miles underground and so on. Now, on the continent beneath Lin Yuan's feet, in billions of timelines he observed in the past 80 years, virtually every part has been turned over dozens of times, with no trace of the original divine gold. That is to say, if the Dafeng Emperor really hid in the original divine gold coffin, the final location of the coffin certainly isn't on the continent. Deep Sea. Lin Yuan looked at the endless deep blue ocean. Not to mention that he is very close to his life limit. In 2 months, Lin Yuan's physical body would completely die of old age. Even if he still had ample lifespan, trying to search the endless deep sea like he did on the continent would take thousands and thousands of years. The area of the endless deep sea is 1,000 times, 10,000 times that of the continent. Not to mention the sea floor of the endless deep sea. The environment there is so harsh that Lin Yuan simply cannot approach it and would undoubtedly be crushed by the infinite sea pressure. In this world, no matter how Lin Yuan cultivates, no matter how much he surpasses limits, the upper limit of the physical body has been fixed. Lin Yuan cannot break through the limit of life, nor can he break through the shackles of the physical body. Until now, if Lin Yuan's heart and brain were shattered, he would still die. However, relying on powerful spiritual power, he would die a bit later, but he would certainly die. Remarkable. Lin Yuan admired from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, he even felt some respect for that Dafeng Emperor. He left no opportunity for him. Even if I had infiltrated the imperial palace upon arrival, established a causal relationship, and knew where he sank into the deep sea, there would be little point. Lin Yuan thought silently. The seabed environment is too harsh. He simply has no means to retrieve it. The other used the original divine gold to resist the endless sea pressure. What would he rely on? Even if he found the same amount of original divine gold, once sealed inside, he could not come out. Even if he could appear after diving into the seabed, as soon as he dared to surface, he would be instantly crushed by the sea pressure. Only 2 months left until my lifespan limit. I have to use that method. Lin Yuan withdrew his gaze from the dark blue deep sea. 20 years ago, Lin Yuan had searched almost the entire land, yet still could not find the position of the Dafeng Emperor. He had speculated that perhaps the Emperor wasn't hiding on land at all. Searching the deep sea wasn't realistic either. Even if he started over with a full 150 years, it was far from possible to explore every part of the deep sea. Back then, Lin Yuan was already contemplating other ways to comprehend the endless deep sea or the entire world in a short time. It's not impossible, but it requires incredibly powerful spiritual power. As long as one's spiritual power is strong enough, in a single thought, it can envelop the entire world. But this is almost impossible to achieve. Spiritual power needs to be nurtured by a physical body, and given this world's suppression on the flesh, it's impossible to generate that level of spiritual power. This is due to the limitations of the world, or rather, the limitations of the supreme rules. Lin Yuan couldn't break them. However, Lin Yuan couldn't enhance his physical body. But he could replace his physical body. If Lin Yuan's flesh wasn't this current body of flesh and blood, but this world, at Lin Yuan's level, the view of the physical body as a vessel had long surpassed being confined to flesh and blood. All things in the world can become spiritual, and the body can be all sorts of bizarre forms, with the world itself being a kind of body. Lin Yuan simply needed to replace the world's consciousness with his own spiritual will. However, replacing the world consciousness is extremely dangerous. Especially in this world with extremely strict rules, Lin Yuan's spiritual will could very likely be counterattacked by the world consciousness and be utterly obliterated during the replacement. Even if successful in the end, it wouldn't last long. But Lin Yuan didn't need it to last long. Just a single breath would suffice. With Lin Yuan's level, as long as he completely replaces the world consciousness, his spiritual power will rise without limit, reaching a level easily covering every part of the world. Then, as long as the Defeng Emperor remains in this world, he can be easily targeted. By relying on the massively increased spiritual power after replacing the world, even with the isolation of the original divine gold, it can forcibly pierce through to kill him. Let's do it this way. Lin Yuan had made a decision in his heart. If the final replacement fails, he'll directly utilize the world-breaking origin force to kill him. With the strength of Lin Yuan's spiritual power, even if the replacement fails and suffers the world consciousness's backlash, he can still hold on for a few moments, enough to activate the world-breaking origin force to clear the level. Of course, Lin Yuan hopes to succeed in replacing the world consciousness, not only to save 4 million world-breaking origin force, but also to account for the past 150 years. If he has to rely on the world-breaking origin force to break through the time cycle in the end, why didn't he use it as soon as he descended? Fined for the last 2 months. Lin Yuan didn't plan to immediately replace the world consciousness. Whether successful or failed in replacing the world consciousness, he certainly wouldn't survive. It should naturally be reserved for the last moment. As for now, he can still try to continue searching. Although the chances are slim, he has to try. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had gone by. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged atop a mountain peak. He could clearly feel that his physical body was infinitely nearing its limit. In 1 more hour, he would completely die of old age. It's time. Lin Yuan took a deep breath. His spiritual power suddenly ignited. After igniting, his spiritual power soared infinitely, vaguely piercing through the clouds, reaching above the sky. Losing the control of the spiritual conscious, Lin Yuan's body was aging at a visible pace. Previously, Lin Yuan was able to maintain a youthful appearance due to his powerful spiritual power control. Now, with all spiritual power leaving the body, the latter naturally couldn't sustain its previous state. Rumble. As Lin Yuan's spiritual power continuously rose, merging deeply into the world, the originally slow-operating world consciousness began to gradually awaken, replacing the heart of heaven with one's own. Lin Yuan's vast spiritual power continuously intertwined and operated. Numerous runes emerged, merging toward the world consciousness. Regarding the replacement of world consciousness, Lin Yuan had already experienced it during his earliest few traversals, when he descended into Tianqing world in the boundless void. He had considerable experience. Buzz buzz buzz. Lin Yuan's spiritual power continuously merged into the world consciousness. The latter fiercely struggled, but still couldn't resist. Lin Yuan's replacement of the world consciousness was too sudden. The world consciousness had no preparation at all, coupled with burning all spiritual power in a desperate attempt, resulting in a great enhancement. Finally, at a certain moment, Lin Yuan's spiritual power completely replaced the world consciousness. This is, after replacing the world consciousness, Lin Yuan's spiritual power began to increase boundlessly. Since descending into this world, compared to his original body, Lin Yuan's spiritual power was exceedingly weak. But this was due to the limitations of the physical body. The feeble physical body simply couldn't endure overly powerful spiritual power. Now that Lin Yuan's body is replaced with this world, the strength of a world certainly far exceeds that of an individual body. Even if it still falls short of the true power of Lin Yuan's body outside, it can still to some extent unleash the might of true spiritual power. Wish with the support of the entire world. Lin Yuan's spiritual power surged without limit, sweeping across the entire world effortlessly. The Central Plains, 99 provinces, numerous small countries, tribes, and all were under Lin Yuan's spiritual power. In the past, Lin Yuan spent 80 years to survey these regions, but now it happened in an instant. Whoosh! The terrifying spiritual power continued to spread, covering toward the endless deep sea. Quickly, the endless deep sea was also under Lin Yuan's control. Within the deep sea, massive sea beasts seemed to sense something. After being swept by the spiritual power, they became terrified, trembling. There it is. Lin Yuan gazed toward a certain spot on the ocean floor of the endless deep sea, the deepest part nearly untouched by any signs of life. At this moment, at the bottom of this deep sea, a pitch-black coffin lay there. Rumble. The terrifying spiritual power swept over, original divine gold isolating everything, but it couldn't block the spiritual power after taking the world as a body. The invisible force swept through, soon penetrating the original divine gold, covering the figure lying inside. What is this? The Dafeng Emperor, who had been sleeping, seemed to sense something and abruptly opened his eyes. D. Without any hesitation, Lin Yuan prompted spiritual power to utterly obliterate the Dafeng Emperor within the coffin. At the moment of the Dafeng Emperor's death, the whole world fell into a certain stagnation. Lin Yuan pondered, his spiritual will returning to his body. Now his physical body was already extremely aged, but it wasn't dead yet, with less than an hour to his lifespan limit. Lin Yuan stood up, looking at the world around him. From the edge of the world, everything material began to collapse and disintegrate, as if everything was like an illusion that would ultimately dissipate completely. I broke through the time cycle. Lin Yuan looked up to the sky. In the depths of his mind, he already knew that he had passed the test of the time cycle. It succeeded. Lin Yuan felt joy in his heart. He had arrived in this time loop world 150 years ago. Everything he did was for this moment, to break the time loop, to become a time life form, and now it was completed. Moreover, he had not used world-breaking origin force to forcibly clear the level. Lin Yuan was naturally delighted. The world-breaking origin force was a last resort. It was better to not use it if possible. The world is collapsing. Lin Yuan overlooked the entire time loop world. After passing the test, this world's suppression of him quickly dissipated. Even without relying on the perspective of replacing the world's consciousness, Lin Yuan could easily look down from above. Every detail of the entire time loop world was fully within Lin Yuan's perception. Without the support of the supreme rules, everything has started to become illusory. Lin Yuan thought. This loop world was originally formed through the operation of the supreme rule Tao. Now that Lin Yuan had successfully passed the test, the supreme rule Tao had withdrawn, and the world itself naturally ceased to exist, collapsing quickly like a bubble. Except for me. Lin Yuan looked down at himself. While everything else became illusory, only Lin Yuan was real. This physical body, though a product of this world, had been refined by Lin Yuan over the 150 years with spirit runes, achieving a hint of true essence. And him. Lin Yuan's gaze shifted, looking towards the bottom of the endless deep sea. That was where the original divine gold coffin was located. The Emperor of Dafeng, who originally slumbered within, had been annihilated by Lin Yuan using spiritual power. But only reduced to the most microscopic particles, the particles themselves still existed, and some of them revealed a real state. As expected, this Emperor of Dafeng, like me, also came from the outside world, not temporarily created by the supreme rule Tao. Lin Yuan looked thoughtful. Having established the Greater Yen for 80 years, Lin Yuan had more or less understood the actions of this Dafeng Emperor. Especially towards the end, when finding the other inside the original divine gold coffin at the bottom of the deep sea, it was almost certain that this Dafeng Emperor was not a life form within the time loop world. Now it was possible to remove the almost, determining that he also came from the outside world. I just don't know what reason brought him into this time loop world as the target of my test. Was it also to cross from the 12th to the 13th layer? Lin Yuan faintly sensed that the other was not a 12th layer life form, but he wasn't very sure. After all, they had never fought, and their only meeting was just now when Lin Yuan, with the overwhelming momentum of replacing this world's consciousness, annihilated him without holding back. In truth, Lin Yuan had won with considerable difficulty. There was even the possibility of failure when replacing the world consciousness at the end. Even with the right timing and location, it still couldn't guarantee success. This was considering that Lin Yuan could continuously observe future timelines through Rune Dao. For an ordinary perfect 12th layer, falling into this loop world and facing the Defeng Emperor. The only chance to pass the test and kill the opponent was within 20 years before descending, recklessly infiltrating the palace, before the other released a substitute puppet to escape. A fight to the death. But this method held little hope. Even Lin Yuan, as strong as he was after only 20 years of cultivation, charging into this world's most heavily guarded Defeng palace, could easily be exhausted to death. And this was after Lin Yuan successfully passed the test, knowing all of Defeng Emperor's tactics and layouts, gaining the only slight hope of passing the test. Other perfect 12th layers couldn't accurately predict the future, expecting them to gamble everything in just 20 years of the loop start. No perfect 12th layer had that kind of nerve. The more cautious a perfect 12th layer, the longer they would drag it out, waiting until their strength reached its peak before taking action. Lin Yuan was such a person. Yet if one truly did as such, it would essentially declare the time test a failure. Difficult. Lin Yuan did a brief review and understood the difficulty faced in this time loop. The Supreme Rule Dao suppressed all means, including the technology Lin Yuan excelled in. Even with the ability to observe future timelines, had he not established a power and detected Defeng Emperor's details in time, Lin Yuan might not have even attempted to replace the world consciousness with his own, seizing it, and instead continued purely to search for traces of the Defeng Emperor. While Lin Yuan was contemplating, the world's collapse sped up. Suddenly, Lin Yuan's expression slightly changed. He could clearly feel that as the world collapsed, he was faintly being stripped of an imprint, disappearing along with the world's collapse, or rather vanishing. At the same time, the Supreme Rule Dao's fluctuations instantly descended, briefly communicated with Lin Yuan. In this time loop, my experiences will be replicated, becoming a tribulation that other tribulation claimers must pass through as an imprint. Lin Yuan's expression turned a bit strange. To put it simply, the Supreme Rule Dao considered Lin Yuan's performance in this time loop to be excellent, therefore specifically condensing an imprint to serve as a tribulation for tribulation claimers like Defeng Emperor. Lin Yuan had considerable experience in this regard, having gone through it once before. When transitioning from the spirit realm to the immortal realm, one had to ascend to the 9 heavens, and the 9th layer of heaven gathered the imprints of the 10 strongest life forms in the spirit realm's history. To enter the immortal realm, one had to defeat these 10 strongest life form imprints. When Lin Yuan ascended to the 9 heavens, his own imprint became the last life form, also the strongest life form in the spirit realm's history. This led to millions and millions of years passing without a single immortal king entering the immortal realm. It's just an imprint, after all. It's not impossible to get through it. Lin Yuan contemplated from the opposite perspective, considering the biggest difference between the imprint and his true self. It was the inability to use his final card, the world-breaking origin force. In this way, this imprint of Lin Yuan still had the possibility of being defeated. That is to preemptively kill, based on Lin Yuan's performance in this cyclic world. The further it goes, the more terrifying it becomes, especially more than a month before his life limit when he manages to replace the world consciousness. Lin Yuan in this state is invincible. Any number of tribulation passers would perish. Therefore, to win, one must preemptively kill. If Lin Yuan is not killed within the first 10 years, then it can be declared that the tribulation would not be passed. So, does this mean the Emperor of Defeng is the so-called tribulation passer? Through a brief exchange with the Supreme Rule Dao, Lin Yuan also speculated some information. For instance, the Emperor of Defeng was different from him. Lin Yuan was trapped in the time loop world to undergo a test. As for the Emperor of Defeng, he was undergoing a tribulation, and his calamity was Lin Yuan. And the test Lin Yuan had to face was the Emperor of Defeng. The two could ultimately only have one victor. If Lin Yuan fails the first time loop and doesn't kill the Emperor before dying of old age, he would have his memory erased and start the loop again. Then, the Emperor of Defeng he would face could be just an imprint. Normally, failing the test the first time, even with memory erased, the second loop would likely yield the same result. Even though Lin Yuan had the world-breaking origin force as his final card in reserve, he did not want to push the test to the second or third loop. Who knows what his memory-erased self would think at that time? With countless martial cultivators outside as anchor points, he could ascertain which cycle he roughly experienced, but it wasn't too safe. So if he could pass the test in the first cycle, naturally he should pass in the first cycle. As for cooperating with the Emperor of Dafeng for a win-win situation, it's estimated that the Supreme Rule Dao wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. As compensation for replicating my experiences in this cyclic world, the Supreme Rule Dao promised that after I became a time life, I could witness the operation of the Taiyin Origin Dao and Taiyang Origin Dao. Lin Yuan felt delighted. The Supreme Rule Dao, not even the world consciousness, instinctively maintains the balance of endless dimensional planes, not mindlessly replicating a Lin Yuan imprint. It would give appropriate compensation for the exchange. And Taiyin and Taiyang Origin Dao belong to the Dao that time lives of the 13th stage must comprehend. The path Lin Yuan was on, the chaotic Taiji Dao, was self-created, and no endless dimensional plane had a corresponding complete origin Dao for him to comprehend as a reference. But as the two foundations of the chaotic Taiji Dao, Taiyin and Taiyang, were manifested in the endless dimensional planes as Taiyin Origin Dao and Taiyang Origin Dao. Directly observing the operation of these two origin Daos would be of tremendous assistance for Lin Yuan to break through to the third level of chaotic Taiji Dao, forming the Chaos Taiji Origin Dao. I never thought the time loop test could have such benefits. A smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face. However, he also knew, to be actively replicated and recorded by the Supreme Rule Dao as a template calamity, the requirements were extremely stringent. First, it must be calamitous enough to impose great pressure on those tribulation passers. And in this aspect, Lin Yuan clearly met the criteria. In the last month or so of his lifetime, when Lin Yuan replaced the world consciousness, he achieved absolute invincibility, making it impossible for any tribulation passer to rival him, even if hidden at the ends of the earth. Secondly, there must be a slim chance of life. Can't be too unfathomable. If Lin Yuan immediately used world-breaking origin force to kill the Emperor of Dafeng upon arriving in the time loop world, it would be entirely unfathomable for the tribulation passers, with no chance of survival. Such a scenario would not be actively replicated and recorded by the Supreme Rule Dao. Tribulation passer? Is this another cultivation system or something else? Lin Yuan was quite curious about the existence of the Emperor of Dafeng, but also understood that this should count as secret information at the 13th stage level. Once he stepped into the 13th stage and became a time life, perhaps he could have some contact? As the cycle world rapidly disintegrated, Lin Yuan also perceived the true self repressed at the deepest part of the cycle world, or rather suppressed by it. The so-called falling into a time loop was the true self being suppressed, with a wisp of moral consciousness entering the cycle world. This was also the reason why the stronger the power, the larger the area formed for the time loop. An insufficiently large time loop could not suppress the corresponding true self. The heart returns. With a subtle thought, the moral consciousness that passed the test instantly merged into his true self. An area exceedingly distant from the chaos void. This is the domain of a Time Lord of the 12th stage, third realm, who consolidates his own timeline. His domain is not limited to space, but extends to the temporal level as well. A Time Lord's domain in itself symbolizes a certain deterrence. Rumbling, in the deepest part of the domain, a massive tentacled creature lay, estimated to be nearly a tenth of the size of the Chaos Void, precisely the Time Lord within this territory. At this moment, the tentacled creature's moral consciousness slowly awoke, revealing emotional waves of terror. The final calamity of 10,008,000 tribulations. Why is it so arduous? He had done everything possible to survive this trial, slumbering in the original divine gold coffin, sinking to the depths of the ocean. Yet, in the end, he still died. A trial against the consciousness of the world? Images flashed in the mind of the tentacle creature, finally sensing the power of the world itself crushing him. How can I get through this? The tentacle creature felt despair in his heart. At the same time, he could clearly feel his own vast psychic consciousness rapidly annihilating. 10 billion and 8,000 trials, with each one passed, his strength would increase slightly. But the same way, if one trial was not passed, waiting for him would be complete death. The psychic consciousness would dissipate, leaving not a trace. Transcendence. Transcendence. Without passing through 10 billion and 8,000 trials, how can I transcend? The tentacle creature's aura spread. Within the territory, heaven collapsed and earth cracked. Time and space ceased to exist. A moment later, the tentacle creature gradually calmed down. At this moment, most of his psychic consciousness had dispersed, with the rest dissipating at an ever-increasing rate. The tentacle creature took one last look at his territory, and then the last wisp of psychic will completely dissipated. Before the psychic will dissipated, the tentacle creature actively annihilated his own body. Any strong being wouldn't want their body to be left behind after their death. The body of a Time Lord contains many wonderful uses, making it into a puppet, or absorbing/consuming it, etc. And these uses, to the Lord themselves, are considered humiliation. So as long as it's possible, Lords will let their body self-annihilate before they die. The Lord of Heaven Light from the second source world left behind both the dark and light bodies only because he didn't have time to self-annihilate. In the attempt to break through to the 14th stage perfect time being, his psychic consciousness burned, the final push failed, dissipating too rapidly to leave the Lord of Heaven Light time to annihilate. The immense tentacle creature experienced 180,000 trials. Even if failing a trial, it doesn't result in immediate death, allowing time to settle posthumous matters. The immense tentacle creature completely fell, causality dissipating. This immediately drew the attention of nearby Time Lords. Has Lord Qingzhong fallen? Failed in the attempt to transcend? I always knew that Lord Qingzhong's path to transcendence was bleak. The Time Lords conversed with each other. As Time Lords, as long as they don't wish to die, they won't die. The only thing that can cause a Time Lord to completely fall and die is transcendence. Transcendence is also what Time Lords pursue. Only through transcendence can they break fate. 13th stage time beings view future timelines, able to change the future to some extent, altering their own fate. But the change here is minor, altering only minor fate, not the real grand fate that involves the ultimate fate of endless dimensional operations, which cannot be changed. Therefore, every Time Lord pursues transcendence. Among many paths to transcendence, transforming into a 14th stage perfect time being is the most orthodox method. But this method is also the most difficult. So far there's no known Time Lord who has transcended successfully using this method. Apart from transforming into a 14th stage perfect time being, there are several paths of transcendence. Each Time Lord will choose based on their own conditions and strengths. Chaos Void. Lord Mo Su and 6 other time beings gather with Luo Ho, the newly ascended time being. Those time beings from the Taishu dimension are truly insane, willing to risk everything for that heart of heavenly river. The human-headed serpent-bodied figure spoke, a hint of anger and helplessness in his tone. Lately, all 7 of them, the time beings, have primarily been at the Milky Way dimension, battling with the time beings of the Taishu dimension. But the results were not very satisfactory, as the time beings from the Taishu dimension showed no mercy. If they show no mercy, we don't need to either. Lord Mo Su's face carried a menacing air. As the strongest time being in Chaos Void, Lord Mo Su and the Master of Taishu from the Taishu dimension had yet to join the battle. After all, if time beings of their level join in, it signifies the escalation of the slaughter. But the actions of the time beings from the Taishu dimension made Lord Mo Su very dissatisfied. The heart of Heavenly River was initially discovered by them, and to acquire it, the 7 time beings from Chaos Void had already negotiated with other factions in the Milky Way dimension. However, the interference from the Taishu dimension was not only unsolicited but also merciless. "Do you need me to make a move?" Luo Ho asked in a low voice beside him. Being a newly ascended 13th stage, he was still stabilizing his realm in Chaos Void. He had not yet gone to the Milky Way dimension. "Not urgent for now." Lord Mo Su shook his head. "The situation in the Milky Way dimension is not too dire yet." "It's not Luo Ho's turn," a newly ascended time being, to take action. Moreover, with Luoho's current strength, even if he takes action, it wouldn't be very useful. Newly ascended time beings lack proficiency in mastering their power and future timelines. There is still a large gap compared to the 7 veteran time beings. Your primary focus now is to stabilize your realm, Lord Mo Su said. All right. Luoho nodded. Having crossed into the 13th stage over a century, he was gradually adapting to the real means of 13th stage time beings. 3 days later, Lord Mo Su was about to discuss strategies with the other 6 time beings to deal with the time beings from the Taishu dimension. It was at this moment, Lord Mo Su's expression slightly changed, turning his head towards the deepest part of the chaos void. The other 6 time lifeforms did the same. The newly ascended Shursan rank Luoho also looked towards the deepest part of the chaos void. That area used to be the time cycle zone, and since the chaos void was opened up, all lifeforms attempting to reach the Shursan rank have fallen into that region. Not long ago, Lin Yuan began his breakthrough, forming the largest time cycle zone ever recorded deep in the chaos void, an expanse larger than all previous zones. And now, the 8 Shursan rank time lifeforms clearly felt the time cycle zone in the deepest part of the chaos void vibrating. The vibration was so intense that even the great saints of the chaos void became aware of it and looked towards the source of the tremor. It's the time cycle zone of the galaxy, Lord Mo Su immediately concluded. Such vast and exaggerated quaking could almost only be attributed to Lin Yuan, as there were hardly any other possibilities. It's worth noting that when Luoho successfully broke through the time cycle, the tremor it caused was comparable to a tiny ripple compared to the current monumental waves. Is it that the Galaxy Great Saint is about to cross into the Shursan rank as well? Luoho marveled inwardly. He had long known from Lord Mo Su and other 7-time lifeforms about Lin Yuan's inevitable entry into the Shursan rank. He just hadn't expected it to happen this fast. How long has it been since Lin Yuan started choosing to break through to the Shursan rank? Not even 200 years. Let's go. Let's wait for the galaxy to come out. Lord Mo Su glanced at the other 7-time lifeforms and immediately headed towards the deepest part of the chaos void. Returning his consciousness to his body, Lin Yuan's life essence immediately began to transform towards the Shursan rank. The strand of consciousness that had passed the test already evolved to the Shursan rank at the moment the time cycle world began to collapse. Returning to his body now, like a drop of ink into clear water, Lin Yuan's life essence rapidly transformed, rising at a terrifying pace. The elevation of life essence made Lin Yuan's perspective suddenly become exceptionally broad. Standing high enables one to see far. Why can time life forms observe future timelines? It's their life essence itself. Observing timelines is instinctual for the Shursan rank, like fish born to swim. And at this moment, Lin Yuan also possessed this instinct. He no longer relied on the rune Dao, nor on the Lord's position. He could effortlessly observe the future timelines. Compared to someone like Luoho, a newly ascended time lifeform, Lin Yuan was already proficient in observing timelines. Thus, there wasn't the need for familiarity. Is this the timeline with a normal view? Lin Yuan, observing the timeline through his life essence for the first time, felt unprecedented ease. In combination with the rune Dao, runes subtly emerged in Lin Yuan's eyes. In an instant, the number and depth of timelines he observed increased significantly. In a split second, he had viewed several thousand future timelines a million years ahead. Endless timelines, fundamentally impossible to see them all. Upon reaching the Shursan rank, Lin Yuan sensed a certain sense of smallness, like life on a planet first touching the vast starry sky. Countless timelines intertwined, every time node spawning countless timelines, limitless and boundless. Even powerful time lifeforms could only change future timelines in a small area and must contend with other time lifeforms. Compared to the infinite timelines, what does the slight change made by time lifeforms represent? Lord's position? Lin Yuan stopped observing future timelines. Instead, he began to feel something existing within him. The Lord position of the Lord of Heaven Light. Before stepping into the Shursan rank, Lin Yuan had little perception of the Lord position. could only use it passively. But now, with his life essence transformed, Lin Yuan clearly sensed the presence of the Lord position. The Lord position is condensed from a Tao fruit of a Time Lord. Not every fallen Time Lord can form a Lord position. Lin Yuan thought to himself. The Lord position of the Lord of Heaven Light, strictly speaking, was not condensed out, but rather dispersed into the bodies of all beings in the second source world. It was Lin Yuan who relied on the uniqueness of the martial arts evolution road, spending tens of thousands of years to recondense it. Other powerhouses, even the eternal lords, have no way to condense the shattered Lord position from the depths of billions of beings' bloodlines. If they could, the eternal lords in the second source world would have laid some groundwork for it. Based on my comprehension of the Rune Tao, as long as I am willing, I can refine this Lord position in a short time and become a Time Lord. Lin Yuan felt the aura of the Lord position within him, coming to this conclusion. And through observing timelines of actively refining this Lord position, he knew the time it would take to completely refine it. 50,000 years. It would only take 50,000 years for him to inherit everything about this Lord position. Become the new Time Lord. But Lin Yuan gently shook his head. If he really did so, Lin Yuan would completely abandon the current chaotic Taiji Dao, turning to follow the path of the Lord of Heaven Light. The path the Lord of Heaven Light took to become a Time Lord is certainly perfect, but the chaotic Taiji Dao is a path created by Lin Yuan himself, born of his own effort. Naturally, it is impossible to give up. And the Lord of Heaven Light failed to become a perfect time being when impacting the 14th rank, proving that his path cannot reach the 14th rank level. Lin Yuan certainly would not abandon the chaotic Taiji Dao to walk a dead-end road. Even without refining the Lord position, the ability to drive and use it to observe future timelines aids me more than most second-realm time lifeforms. Lin Yuan thought to himself. When he was at the 12th rank, the Lord position made observing future timelines much easier, and now his life essence reaches the Shursan rank, coaxing greater power from the Lord position. Are Lord Mo Su and the others waiting for me? Lin Yuan slightly opened up his perception and sensed the presence of the 8-time lifeforms. Let's quickly complete the final breakthrough. Lin Yuan looked towards the chaos void. Breaking through the time cycle merely signifies his life essence reaching the Shursan rank. As for aspects like his physical body, spirit, and soul, they still remain at the 12th rank level. More accurately, it's between the 12th rank and Shursan rank level. Though Lin Yuan's physical strength had long reached the threshold of the Shursan rank, this large realm crossover still allows for great enhancement. And also, Lin Yuan looked towards the suppressive chaos void. This dimensional space in the chaos void grants an origin source infusion to every life that comprehends the rule of time and undergoes a major breakthrough. The amount of origin source capacity depends entirely on oneself. Rumble. Lin Yuan felt the entire chaos void vibrating as it began actively absorbing the energy aura from the dimensional gaps around it. The next moment, endless chaos void origin source poured down frantically towards Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan's internal universe rapidly evolved, and the endless constant sand particle world quickly transformed, continuously absorbing and devouring the infused chaos void origin source. What is this? Originally waiting for Lin Yuan to emerge, Lord Mo Su and the 8-time lifeforms were somewhat dumbfounded, watching the entire chaos void origin source being boundlessly consumed by Lin Yuan. The last major realm crossing occurred when the 11th layer broke through to the 12th layer. At that time, Lin Yuan is still in his home universe. The chaos void origin infusion endured toward a rift that connected the primordial lands, spanning even 1,000,000 light-years. Even so, compared to other breakers of the same level, it was already tens of thousands of times larger. For a normal life crossing into the 12th layer, even when enduring the chaos void origin infusion, the rift form spanned only a few light-years to 10 light-years. This is already tens of thousands of times in diameter. When it comes to bearing the amount and weight of the origin source, the difference is simply immeasurable. And now, Lin Yuan goes from the 12th layer to the 13th layer. He no longer endures the chaos void origin in the form of a rift. At this moment, Lin Yuan seems to be merging with the chaos void origin. The vast and endless origin pours entirely towards him. The entire chaos void, because of the overwhelming burden, begins to actively operate frantically, devouring madly towards the external dimensional gaps. The chaos void is a top-dimensional space, and its interior has already formed a cycle. Under normal circumstances. It basically does not need to absorb energy from outside dimensions. However, now, this cycle has been broken by Lin Yuan. As the origin source is greatly infused, it is forced to actively absorb and exhale external energy. So comfortable. With the endless infusion of origin, Lin Yuan only feels the universe within him rapidly filling up. Due to the advancement of the realm, the transcendence of the essence of life, the universe within Lin Yuan also begins to expand rapidly. An expansion means that sufficient energy support is needed. With the size of Lin Yuan's internal universe, only the chaos void itself can somewhat satisfy the demand for large-scale expansion at the moment. If categorized by level, the size of the chaos void is probably equivalent to a Time Lord of the third realm. Of course, this Time Lord does not have specific consciousness, just a matter of comparable size. The 13th layer legacy, infinite void founded by Lord Mo Su, as long as it is cultivated to the theoretical limit, elevating the internal universe to the infinite void level comparable to the chaos void, then it will approach the Time Lord class. A true Time Lord relies not only on his own size. Even if the size is comparable, it is only close. Besides the frantic expansion of the universe within, the endless constant sand particle worlds within Lin Yuan are also expanding frantically. A single constant sand particle world can definitely not compare to the internal universe. The foundational difference is too great. But the endless constant sand particle worlds, when combined, absorb and devour the chaos void origin even more than the internal universe. The chaos void is operating at overload, devouring the endless energy of the external dimensional gaps with all its might. In the eyes of life forms below the 13th layer, the dimensional gap appears empty, but to time life and even dimensional space, the dimensional gap is filled with a certain dark energy, which only dimensional spaces can devour, and time life can absorb to a certain extent. Rumble. For a moment, centered around the chaos void, a large area of dark energy is absorbed and devoured, affecting even other distant dimensional spaces. What's going on? What happened in that dimensional space? What are Lord Mo Su and the others doing? One by one, time life forms felt something, gazing distantly at the chaos void. Such an extravagant devouring of dark energy is rarely seen, generally only occurring after the great destruction of a dimensional space followed by its rebirth. But now, the chaos void is still far from such a great destruction. This commotion. Lord Mo Su and the other 8 time life forms exchanged glances with each other. They could clearly sense the strain of the chaos void, all showing a hint of being unable to supply Lin Yuan. One should know the size of the chaos void is comparable to a Time Lord. Under such circumstances, it cannot supply Lin Yuan. How robust must the latter's reserves be? Too terrifying. Luo Ho breathed a light sigh. He had just broken through to the 13th layer not long ago, and had a deep understanding of the chaos void origin infusion endured during the 12th and 13th layers. The chaos void origin infusion he endured at the time caused only a 10th or a 5th of the chaos void's origin to pour. Even so, Luo Ho was almost overwhelmed and exploded by the endless chaos void origin. But for Lin Yuan, not only is the entire chaos void fully infusing, it has also started endlessly absorbing and exhaling towards the external dimensional gaps. Such a difference is far beyond that of hundreds or thousands of times simple. Could it be that galaxy, just having become the 13th layer, is about to approach the second realm? A thought suddenly emerged in Luo Ho's mind, startling even himself. 13th layer time life is divided into first realm, second realm, third realm. The third realm is the status of a Time Lord, occupying a vast region of dimensional gaps. Under normal circumstances, Time Lords have their own pursuits and rarely interfere with unrelated matters. So second realm time life basically has already become dominant in one area. These 13th layers have already long left their home dimensional space. Approaching the second realm? Many time life having completed a cycle of great destruction, have not reached this domain. Lin Yuan just crossed into the 13th layer and was deemed by Luo Ho to be approaching the second realm. It is already a very incredible speculation. Under such circumstances, a little further cultivation would fully cross into the second realm. Among the newly ascended time-life forms, the gap between each other is not that large. Which of them crossed into the 13th layer without peerless talent? Meanwhile, the sentient beings within the Chaos Void also noticed the anomaly of Lin Yuan's devouring of the Chaos Void origin. There's no way around it. Even the birth of ordinary time life is quite conspicuous, not to mention Lin Yuan at this moment. Why do I feel the Chaos Chi has thinned by half overall? A great time life has been born. Yes, I feel the cause and effect of the Galaxy Great Saint. The Galaxy Great Saint has crossed into the 13th tier. All the great saints of the Chaos Realm seem to be stirred up. Compared to Luo Ho's recent crossing into the 13th tier, the impact of the Galaxy Great Saint crossing into the 13th tier was far greater. Luo Ho, although possessing the power of an invincible great saint, is merely an ordinary invincible great saint. But the Galaxy Great Saint? The strongest invincible great saint throughout history, the only one to emerge since the Chaos Void originated. An era of prosperity. I didn't expect two great time lives to be born in succession. Indeed, witnessing the birth of two time lives in person is not a wasted life. I've decided, I'm going to attempt to reach the 13th tier now. The thoughts of the many great saints of the Chaos Realm are complex. Throughout the long cosmic era, being able to witness the birth of one 13th tier is already considered an extremely rare fortune. Moreover, two in a row? Did you notice, when the Galaxy Great Saint crossed into the 13th tier, the phenomenon was much stronger than that of Luo Ho Great Saint. The numerous great saints of the Chaos Realm, far from possessing the insight methods of time life, could not perceive the changes in the Chaos Void. But they clearly felt the difference in the richness of the Chaos Chi. When Luo Ho Great Saint crossed into the 13th tier, the concentration of Chaos Chi throughout the Chaos Void hardly changed. But Lin Yuan crossing into the 13th tier directly led to a 50% drop in Chaos Chi concentration. This kind of difference led many great saints of the Chaos Realm to faintly realize that even among great time lives, there are disparities. All the great saints of the Chaos Realm did not know that the difference they perceived was just the tip of the iceberg, a mere drop in the ocean. Just a 50% decrease in Chaos Chi concentration? If the Chaos Void wasn't doing its utmost to maintain it within a certain range, it wouldn't just be a 50% decrease but a complete drain. Galaxy has crossed into the 13th tier? On the Galaxy Chaos continent, Xiaqin Supreme and other 9 Supremes were excited, and the 12th tier evolvers born after leaving their home universe were even more thrilled. The stronger the power, the higher the realm, the more one can realize what a 13th tier time life truly entails. The difference between 12th tier and 13th tier, although only one tier apart, is the gap between time life and non-time life. For a time life, lives below the 13th tier are as simple as thin paper, seeing through past, present, and future at a glance. The great saints of the Chaos Void all pursue traces of time life, longing for a slight hint from time life. Galaxy. Though Shenyuan Supreme was excited and jubilant, he couldn't help but feel endless amazement in his heart. Since he noticed Lin Yuan in his home universe, Lin Yuan's growth has never ceased, now even effortlessly breaking through the 12th tier to the bottleneck of the 13th tier. Not even monsters can describe. 333 breaths later, the infusion of the Chaos Void origin gradually ceased. Whether breaking through from the 11th tier to the 12th tier or from the 12th to the 13th tier, the infusion time of the Chaos Void origin is 333 breaths. In these 333 breaths, how much Chaos Void origin one can endure entirely depends on oneself. Is it over? Lin Yuan's expression showed a hint of lingering expectation. Even with the full infusion of Chaos Void origin, it still only made him about 70% full. The reason for this is that Lin Yuan intentionally held back. If he truly indulged in devouring and absorbing Chaos Void origin, until he was completely full and even overstuffed, he could certainly achieve it, but it might cause irreversible impacts on the Chaos Void. Definitely, it would completely drain the chaos void, leaving its origin empty and depleted. Even if the chaos void didn't immediately suffer a great destruction, the eventual great destruction time would be pushed forward. This goes against Lin Yuan's wishes, though he indeed wants to use the chaos void origin to enhance his power. But he doesn't want to bring any significant impact on the chaos void. After all, it also counts as his hometown. Now this 70% full is just right. As for the rest, it can be made up through the inexhaustible dark energy permeating the dimensional gaps. Though the absorption efficiency is not as good as directly devouring chaos void origin, with the blessing of the Lord status. The devouring of dark energy in the dimensional gaps won't be much inferior to that of a real-time Lord. After crossing into the 13th tier, more uses for the Lord status were unearthed, aside from enhancing the ability to observe future timelines. The absorption and devouring of dark energy also underwent significant enhancement. My current power. Lin Yuan started to examine himself. Now he has initially entered the 13th tier, strictly speaking, not even fully crossing into the first realm. Even so, due to the depth of his foundation, Lin Yuan's frontal battle prowess surpasses most second-layer time lives. As for the capability to observe timelines with the Lord's status blessing, it also reaches nearly the level of a Time Lord. The Lord's status, its help is really significant for me. Lin Yuan marveled in his heart. At the level of time life, mere battle means alone cannot be dominant. Without corresponding abilities to observe timelines, even if one surpasses the opponent's battle prowess, one would still be led by the nose. The enemy can't beat you, so can you win? This causal inference is basically correct for life forms below the 13 stages. But for time life forms, it isn't necessarily true. Because time life forms fundamentally won't make a move against an enemy they can't defeat. If they can't win, they simply won't fight. Or, they'll fight using other certain methods. As long as they find the timeline where they can defeat a stronger opponent. And the opponent hasn't found this timeline to take action. Then they've won. The path to victory for time life forms is not limited to offensive and defensive maneuvers. After becoming a time life form, the next direction of cultivation is to understand one's own origin Tao. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Each time life form has a different origin Tao. For example, Lin Yuan's origin Tao is the chaotic origin Taiji Tao. The level of the chaotic origin Taiji Tao. The chaotic Taiji Tao is the chaotic path created by Lin Yuan. The infinite dimensions do not have this Tao as guidance. Therefore, Lin Yuan wants to understand the chaotic origin Taiji Tao mainly by himself. Generally, understanding one's own origin Tao can essentially step into the second realm. Lin Yuan thought to himself, the origin Tao has basically reached the limit of infinite dimensions. Beyond this is the Supreme Rule Tao. And the Supreme Rule Tao belongs to the infinite dimensions. Time life forms understand the Supreme Rule Tao only as a reference, to perfect and fill their origin Tao. Within the time cycle, the Supreme Rule Tao replicated one of my imprints for exchange. I can directly observe the operation of the solar and lunar origin Tao. Lin Yuan's gaze looked beyond the chaos void. The invisible Supreme Rule Tao transmitted fluctuations. As long as Lin Yuan was willing, he could observe the operation of the Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang origin anytime. Though the infinite dimensions lack the chaotic origin Taiji Tao, they do have the chaotic origin Tai-Yin and solar 2 Taos. The chaotic origin solar Tao is one of the fundamental Taos maintaining the infinite dimensions. Lin Yuan's chaotic Taiji Tao was understood based on this. Originated from Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang yet transcended Tai-Yin and Tai-Yang. Wait a while before watching. Lin Yuan restrained his thoughts, not immediately watching the operation of the chaotic solar and lunar origin Tao. There is no rush now, having just entered the 13 stages. There is still significant room for growth and improvement. After reaching the ultimate point, watching will definitely have a greater impact. After all, this opportunity to directly observe the operation of the origin Tao is rare. Even for the Time Lord, it is difficult to have such an opportunity. Withdrawing his gaze, Lin Yuan stepped forward to arrive in front of Lord Mo and the other 8 time life forms who had been waiting for quite some time. Congratulations, Galaxy! Lord Emosu said, smiling. Even though he had no doubts about Lin Yuan becoming a time life form, when it actually came to pass, he genuinely offered congratulations. Congratulations, Galaxy. Congratulations on reaching the 13 stages. The other 7 time life forms also offered their congratulations one after another. As time life forms from the same dimensional space, they will stand together in the same camp in the future against other time life form groups for a long time. Sharing the same hometown is a heavy bond even among time life forms. Especially life forms from the same great extinction cycle, their relationships are quite close. This closeness surpasses that of kin because, at such a vast difference in the levels of life, even close family can become distant. Lord Emosu. Lin Yuan looked at this first-time life form in the chaos void, also feeling grateful. Much of his growth stages, the infinite void inheritance created by Lord Emosu, played a significant role. During the hometown universe, the internal world was hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands times more evolved than others of the same level. After leaving the hometown universe, cultivating infinite void further widened the gap with Chaos Realm 12-stage life forms. Every time I see your growth speed, Galaxy, I feel I've lived in vain all these years. Lord Emosu couldn't help but say. This sentiment resonated deeply with the other time life forms. Your inheritance, Lord Emosu, was also a major help to me. Lin Yuan looked at another time life form, and that sky void tripod, allowing me to feel the power of the timeline in advance. Ha ha ha, Galaxy. You are too modest. Lord Emosu laughed. Even without the infinite void inheritance, it wouldn't affect you much. Maybe just be a bit delayed in stepping into the 13 stages. If stepping into the 13 stages could rely on the infinite void inheritance, how could there be only 7 time life forms in the chaos void? Before Lin Yuan, the infinite void inheritance had already existed for countless ages, but how many cultivators eventually became time life forms from this inheritance? None. Not even one. This is despite Lord Emosu occasionally paying attention, actively reviving the excellent life forms among these inheritance cultivators. Of course, here the resurrection is limited to those who fell prematurely, not reaching perfection in the Chaos Realm. For such cultivators, Lord Emosu is willing to give them a chance to be revived and start over. As for those who reached perfection in the Chaos Realm, trying to break through to the 13 stages, yet got trapped in the time loop, Lord Emosu basically showed no interest at all. Even if breaking the loop forcibly with a price was possible, it would lose the opportunity to step into the 13 stages. And for life forms without hope of reaching the 13 stages, Lord Emosu had no interest at all. Nor would he actively pay any price to break them out of the time loop. Correct. Galaxy, you're still too modest. The owner of the Sky Void tripod also spoke. Galaxy, you should have completely surpassed my strength by now. Lord Emosu asked tentatively. From the moment Lin Yuan broke through, engulfing the chaos void with such commotion. Apart from anything else, just in terms of sheer size, he has certainly surpassed Lord Emosu. It's merely brute force, Lin Yuan said. If there weren't the rank of Lord. Even if the size of strength is surpassed, it's just a little more brute force. Brute force. Lord Emosu did not agree. If strength forms a crush, what does it matter if you cannot observe any timeline? For example, when the second realm faces the first realm, even if the former doesn't observe the timeline, the first realm will still be helpless against the latter. Let's go. Let's have a good gathering today. To celebrate Galaxy stepping into the 12th rank. Lord Emosu said. Lin Yuan did not refuse either. Stepping into the 13th rank, becoming a time life form. It's indeed a joyous occasion, worth celebrating. The first origin world. When Lin Yuan broke through the time cycle and stepped into the 12th rank. This origin world simultaneously gave birth to a tremendous phenomenon. What's that? Ancestor. A new ancestor is born. It's the Galaxy Venerate. The Galaxy Venerate has become an ancestor. The Galaxy Venerate will open the 7th ancient country and become the new ancestor. Many Venerates felt a huge concentration of aura. Their hearts were extremely shaken. This is an ancestor. the seventh ancestor. Has Galaxy become an ancestor? In Qingfen domain, Lord Qingfen felt a significant change in his causality link with this aura, his thoughts deeply moved. He remembered the first time he met Lin Yuan when the latter was an exceptionally weak being. But now, this weak being has grown to a height that even he cannot look up to. In the ancient country of Deling, King Lingshan also felt the phenomenon of the new ancestor's birth. Is it the Galaxy venerate? King Lingshan remained silent, then shook his head, saying, I never thought that one day I would be able to confront an ancestor. During the past wars between Qingfen Domain and Purple Dream Domain, King Lingshan intervened, but was blocked by Lin Yuan and even lost his life to the latter. Now that Galaxy has become the new ancestor, the once defeat turned into a place of pride for King Lingshan. Losing to the hands of an ancestor. It's an honor. Ha 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 ha. Congratulations to Galaxy. Congratulations. Congratulations. Defu ancestor and the other 6 ancestors gathered with Lin Yuan in an independent spacetime. Thanks to all of you for allowing me to embody, Lin Yuan said. Before breaking through to the 13th rank, Lin Yuan specifically experienced the perspective of embodying the 6 ancestors. Galaxy. When do you plan to establish the 7th ancient country? The ancestor of Fierce Sun asked. In this origin world, it is customary for each ancestor to establish an ancient country. Time-life forms in the chaos void generally do not interfere with matters below the 13th rank, leaving behind only some legacies. But the time-life forms in this origin world are different, as they will establish ancient countries to cultivate their descendants and offspring. In a while, I'll wait until my realm stabilizes, Lin Yuan said. Compared to the chaos void which can endure origin source infusion. In this origin world, when Lin Yuan stepped into the 13th rank, he didn't gain much benefit. So in terms of strength, he has just barely reached the milestone of second realm, not like the original self in chaos void that immediately surpassed most second realm levels. Therefore, Lin Yuan's next step is to enhance his strength to the limit. Indeed, Defu ancestor and the other 5 ancestors nodded. For the ancestors, the most important aspect is themselves. As for establishing ancient countries to nurture descendants, that's secondary. Even for Defu ancestor, who values his descendants the most, if his personal cultivation conflicts with that of the ancient country's offspring, he would undoubtedly choose the former without hesitation. The second origin source world. Lin Yuan steps into the 13th rank, causing the great Tao of the world to tremble. The Eternal Lord. A new Eternal Lord has been born. In the hidden world, several sect masters wept. Even though they knew Lin Yuan's strength was not inferior to the Eternal Lord. But as long as he does not become the Eternal Lord, he must face the barrier of time cycles. If he cannot overcome it, even the strongest free 3 realms will completely fall. Now that Lin Yuan has become the Eternal Lord, he can swim freely like fish in the sea, without any hidden threats. Demon God. After stepping into the 13th rank, Lin Yuan's power surged, and at the moment, there are no secrets in the entire origin source world in his eyes. Even the hiding place of the Demon God, the deepest part of the origin source world, is under Lin Yuan's gaze. Rumble. Lin Yuan lifts his right hand. An immense and boundless Taiji yin-yang diagram converges, spinning continuously and instantly enveloping the entire origin source world. Rumble. The black and white Tai Chi force quickly erodes the dark demonic Chi. Buzz the demon god's form gathers, its hollow gaze fixed on Lin Yuan. Coming out willingly? Lin Yuan also looks at the demon god. At this moment, Lin Yuan has completely risen to the 13th rank, becoming the Eternal Lord, with the position supported by the Lord of Heaven Light, standing out within the demon god's vision. Just as Lin Yuan was preparing to subdue the demon god and completely end the demonic catastrophe, the demon god's hollow gaze revealed a hint of emotion between its eyes. You've inherited my rank. Naturally, everything of mine is yours. The demon god smiled, gazing at Lin Yuan. Its gaze was gentle, filled with goodwill. Though surrounded by boundless demonic chi, yet giving an illusion of infinite brightness. But remember, the path I've taken is now unworkable. My rank, at most, serves as a reference, never to be refined. After speaking, the demon's body began to disintegrate, and all the demonic chi permeating everywhere in the world turned into the purest and most elemental force, converging before Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan watched this scene, the timeline constantly reversing, returning to the long past, at the time when the Lord of Heaven Light attempted to break through to the 14th rank. In the moment when attempting to break through the 14th rank failed, the Lord of Heaven Light realized this, but was powerless to manage, unable to extinguish the bright body and black demon body. So with its final force, it forcibly disintegrated its lordly position. Let the lordly position merge into the beings of this world. Such an approach had two purposes. One was to weaken the strength of the black demon body and the bright body as much as possible. It could be foreseen that if the lordly position did not shatter, merely relying on this origin source world's 13 eternal lords would never be enough to stop the out-of-control Lord of Heaven Light. Even if it was only a bright body. The second purpose was that someday, should an eternal Lord reconverge the lordly position of the Lord of Heaven Light, then he could voluntarily accept everything of this Time Lord. Whether it be the black demon body, or the bright body, Lord of Heaven Light. Lin Yuan gazed at the deep crystal clearly formed by the boundless demonic chi. To condense a lordly position within the creatures, was the Lord of Heaven Light leaving the beings of this world a lifeline. It's just a pity that none of the 13 eternal lords saw this lifeline. Yet Lin Yuan stumbled upon it, using the martial arts evolution road to converge it. There! Lin Yuan raised his gaze beyond the origin source world. By relying on the lordly position, Lin Yuan sensed there was a force very close to him, estimated to be where the Lord of Heaven Light's bright body resided. In the time and space shrouded by infinite brightness, the 13 eternal lords also perceived changes within the origin source world. However, before they could respond, the infinite brightness constantly enveloping them quickly dissipated. Meanwhile, a new figure appeared. It was Lin Yuan. "Greetings, everyone." Lin Yuan smiled at the 13 eternal lords. Galaxy, the master of infinite, slightly stunned, looked around, couldn't resist asking, "The teacher's bright body is here." Lin Yuan flipped his right hand, and a crystal condensed with boundless light emerged. The 13 eternal lords stared, dumbfounded, at the crystal of light in Lin Yuan's palm. The bright body that had dragged them through long ages was so easily resolved by Lin Yuan. The power of the light crystal is completely restrained. But any being of time can sense the terrifying aura it contains. Compared to the dark crystal formed by the black demon body, the light crystal is much more terrifying. Teacher. The 13 eternal lords had complex thoughts. The complexity of their thoughts came from two aspects. Firstly, the Lord of Heaven Light had shown them favor before. Secondly, even a powerful figure like the Lord of Heaven Light, at the level of a lord in pursuit of ultimate transcendence, to evolve into a perfect time being, ended up with a destroyed spirit and will. As first realm time beings, could they still see hope? The disaster of magic is over. Lin Yuan put away the light crystal and said, looking at the eternal lords, "In fact, as long as one can completely master the lordship of the Lord of Heaven Light, one could easily reclaim the black demon body and the light body. This was the last safeguard left by the Lord of Heaven Light for his two true bodies. Yes, the disaster of magic is over," the Master of Infinite murmured, simultaneously glancing at the distant Feng Yuan world. Since the great changes in heaven and earth many eons ago, the 13 eternal lords were forced to leave their homeland world. Until now. Congratulations, Galaxy, for becoming the new eternal lord. The Master of Wushan spoke in congratulations. As soon as these words were spoken, the remaining 12 eternal lords also reacted. Immediately, they spoke their congratulations one after another. Although the Feng Yuan world lost the Time Lord, the Lord of Heaven Light, it gained Lin Yuan, a time being with even more incredible potential. Lin Yuan smiled and responded to each in turn. Galaxy, how strong are you now? The Master of Infinite looked at Lin Yuan, his expression inevitably curious. Lin Yuan, having stepped into the 13th level, successively dealt with the black demon body and light body of the Lord of Heaven Light. He didn't show much strength, mainly relying on the safeguards left by the Lord of Heaven Light, forcibly suppressing with the lordship. Thus, the Eternal Lords were somewhat curious about Lin Yuan's strength. Though they had their theories in mind, they couldn't quite believe them. As for observing the future timeline, before Lin Yuan stepped into the 13th level, with the blessing of the lordship, his personal timeline had already become obscure and twisted to First Realm time beings, revealing little useful information. Now, having become a time being, fully mastering the lordship, observing Lin Yuan's future timeline is nearly as difficult as observing a true Time Lord. According to Lin Yuan's future timeline shown before he condensed the lordship, it was vastly different from the scene just now. The initial future scene by the Eternal Lords indeed showed Lin Yuan ending the magic disaster. But it was nowhere near as relaxed and comfortable as it is now. Evidently, Lin Yuan's future had greatly diverged from what the Eternal Lords had originally seen. My strength. Lin Yuan smiled slightly. Who wants to give it a try? I'll go. The Master of Black Space stepped forward, looking at Lin Yuan with anticipation. Among the 13 Eternal Lords, the Master of Infinite was the most powerful, with the Master of Black Space being the second only to the Master of Infinite. In fact, in terms of defensive capabilities, he wasn't weaker than the Master of Infinite. Lin Yuan nodded. I will use my suppressing techniques. Feel it carefully. The Master of Black Space was solemnly prepared. The next moment, black and white yin-yang energy intertwined, enveloping the space-time. The expression of the Master of Black Space changed, feeling the suppressive restraint of the black and white yin-yang energy on him. Buzz! The Master of Black Space's form gradually vanished, transforming into a space-time black hole, resisting the erosion from the black and white yin-yang energy. Yet the black and white yin-yang energy continued to condense, vaguely forming a magnificent chaotic Tai Chi diagram, and no matter how much the Master of Black Space resisted, the yin-yang energies still began to permeate the space-time black hole, sweeping towards his true form. Can't hold it at all. The Master of Black Space's mind trembled slightly. His path was best at defense, but he couldn't withstand Lin Yuan's suppression. If you feel something off, say it immediately, and I'll stop, Lin Yuan said with a smile, also observing the path of the Master of Black Space. Each Eternal Lord's path was unique. To become a Time Lord meant their path was powerful, but those time beings who hadn't yet become Time Lords, their paths may not necessarily be weaker. Galaxy, stop it! The Master of Black Space immediately shouted, though it was some distance from harming his true form. But to start with such overwhelming force to penetrate his layered defenses, there was no need to continue resisting. Just with suppressing techniques, it's already this terrifying. Galaxy, your strength might have already reached the second realm, right? The Master of Infinite confirmed his hypothesis, looking at Lin Yuan with amazement. Having just become an Eternal Lord, his combat power was akin to the second realm. Once he stabilizes his realm, wouldn't he be approaching the peak of the second realm, nearing a Time Lord? It's known that the strength of a newly ascended Eternal Lord isn't very strong, leaving ample room for growth. Second realm. The Eternal Lords glanced at each other. They were all quite far from the peak of the first realm, let alone the second realm. Black Space, Galaxy held back, only using suppressing techniques. If it were offensive techniques, you wouldn't have the chance to call out to stop. The Master of Wushan said with a smile. He had already received a lot of information from within the trial space, knowing that before Lin Yuan became an Eternal Lord, the Chaos Tai Chi sword gathered with black and white yin-yang energy had an offensive power far beyond the chaotic Tai Chi diagram. The chaotic Tai Chi diagram mainly served for suppression and restriction. I wouldn't even have the chance to call out to stop? The Master of Black Space muttered to himself. This is indeed true. In the future timeline that they observed initially, there was Lin Yuan using other means to annihilate the demonic chi. Among them, the Taiji sword, enveloped in endless yin and yang energy, shocked all the Eternal Lords. Even the strongest defensive means would find it difficult to obliterate the true form of black space in a short time. Lin Yuan said, "Obliterate my true form, and in a short time?" The master of black space blinked. Although for an eternal lord, the fall of a true form is far from true death. Yet, if even the strongest form can't ensure survival, it indicates a vast power gap between the two. What's your plan next for the galaxy? Do you want to establish a force of the eternal sect? The Master of Infinite looked at Lin Yuan and asked. Let's talk about it later. Lin Yuan answered. Having just stepped into the 13th rank, he had too many things to do. Establish a force? Not urgent for now. The Master of Infinite nodded, then continued, I'll go back first. Throughout the long years, he never truly returned to the origin source world, at most descending as an avatar. But the avatar's descent would be perceived by the demon god and would not last long. All right. Lin Yuan looked at the other eternal lords. I will leave first as well. After speaking, Lin Yuan's figure dissipated and vanished. In a certain time-space, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged. Floating before him were two crystals. One was filled with dark demonic chi. One was filled with infinite light. These were precisely the forms of the black demon and the light of the Lord of Heaven Light. Lin Yuan carefully observed, looking at the black demon crystal for a while, then the light crystal for a while. At this moment, these two crystals had already transformed into the purest, most primal energy, easily absorbable by Lin Yuan. There's no need to crush them with the Taiji millstone, for regardless of which crystal, the purity of their power was not far inferior to the Chaos Void origin. This was the legacy of a Time Lord, as Lin Yuan grasped the Lord's status and inherited everything from the Lord of Heaven Light, absorbing the two crystals effortlessly. I can feel the immense energy within these two crystals, not at all inferior to experiencing another Chaos Void origin infusion. Lin Yuan's face brimmed with a smile. In fact, had the black demon form and the light form not gone through the erosion of endless years, their internal energy drained by nearly half. The benefits Lin Yuan would gain after refining and absorbing them would certainly exceed the Chaos Void origin infusion. After all, this is the complete inheritance of a Time Lord, and the magnitude of the Chaos Void is merely equivalent to a Time Lord. Begin refining and absorbing. Lin Yuan didn't hesitate much and immediately began refining the two crystals simultaneously. Instantly, two completely different forces surged into Lin Yuan's body, melding into each particle world. The path taken by the Lord of Heaven Light is the path of light. Wherever it reaches, there's infinite light. Lin Yuan felt a deeper understanding of the path of the Lord of Heaven Light at this moment. But having only light is too extreme. Reaching a peak is easy, but achieving perfect harmony, difficult. Lin Yuan thought silently in his heart. The Lord of Heaven Light realized this, thus possessing the black demon form, but in the end, the black demon form exists merely to compensate for the deficiency in his path of light. Hence it was not as powerful as the light form. Lin Yuan's thoughts expanded. Only having light isn't truly light. Only with darkness can there be light. My path, since I embarked on cultivation, has been established, grounded in Tai Yin and Tai Yang, without extremes, and also without hidden dangers. Lin Yuan pondered in his heart. This is also why he was unwilling to refine the Lord's status of the Lord of Heaven Light. From deep within, Lin Yuan believed the path he walked was superior to the path of the Lord of Heaven Light. I wonder if I strive for the 14th rank, will I meet the same fate as the Lord of Heaven Light? A death and downfall? Lin Yuan pondered secretly, even though his path had no flaws or hidden dangers, appearing more perfect than the Lord of Heaven Light's. But whether he can ultimately step into the 14th rank and become a perfect time being, Lin Yuan had no certainty at heart. His future timeline only reaches the level of a Time Lord at most. As for beyond that, striving for the perfect time being, it becomes very vague as the 14th rank is already beyond all timelines. No matter how strong a time being is, it cannot be observed. Let's see when the time comes. Lin Yuan quickly refined the two crystals while his power rapidly enhanced. The two crystals were not merely accumulations of pure force, but also contained the path taken by the Lord of Heaven Light. Lin Yuan refined and absorbed, while at the same time extracting parts he needed from the path of the Lord of Heaven Light. The path of the Lord of Heaven Light couldn't be followed directly, but it could be referenced. Only in this way can one's path become ever more complete, approaching perfection. Chaos Void. A series of blurred phantoms converged. Myriad laws, the galaxy becomes a great time being. You are indeed very fortunate. Each of the unique spirits looked at the eye of myriad laws, their tones inevitably tinged with envy. The connection between the eye of myriad laws and the time-being galaxy had long been speculated by many unique spirits since the latter took initiative to fetch the magic origin fruit for the eye of myriad laws back then. The time-being galaxy was very averse to contact with unique spirits before stepping into the 13th rank. He had never met any unique spirit. Yet he took action to assist the Eye of Myriad Laws in obtaining the magic origin fruit. If there weren't some connection in this, the unique spirits would not believe it. Indeed, very fortunate. The Eye of Myriad Laws nodded on the surface, but indeed felt bitter inside. If only I had known. If only I had not made that request to Lin Yuan, maintaining the favor between the two. A favor from a time being is immensely valuable, especially for these special entities. But because of his short-sightedness, thinking Lin Yuan might not break through the time loop, he was eager to use that favor before it went to waste. Now it seems, the Eye of Myriad Laws regrets it deeply. The special entities have lived through long cosmic eras, even witnessing the birth of time beings one after another. They know that the commotion caused by Lin Yuan stepping into the 13th realm far exceeds that made by other time beings in the past. This result means that Lin Yuan's strength and potential are stronger than other time beings. Yet this kind of favor was used up by him like this? The Eye of Myriad Laws felt utterly helpless. With Lin Yuan's current strength, trying to further the relationship is almost impossible now. In the depths of the dim space-time, a figure sat cross-legged. It was Lin Yuan. After stepping into the 13th realm and enduring the Chaos Void origin infusion, Lin Yuan's true self had become the strongest. As for the second source world, the true self enriched by the legacy of the Lord of Heaven Light, to reach the level of the Chaos Void true self would still require completely refining those two crystals. My internal universe is probably about 1% of the size of the Chaos Void. Lin Yuan observed his internal universe. He was still at the initial stage of the 13th realm and hadn't grown to the limit. Lin Yuan predicted that once he reached his peak, his internal universe would achieve a 10th of the Chaos Void size. A 10th of the Chaos Void? It's known that the Chaos Void is the pinnacle of dimensional space. Even a 10,000th or a millionth of it is endless for beings below the 13th realm, impossible to explore fully in their lifetime. If I step into the second realm of the 13th realm, my internal universe might directly rival the Chaos Void. Lin Yuan thought to himself. Now he was just a newly ascended time being, having only entered the first realm. Awaiting his entrance into the second realm, there'd be another significant enhancement. At that time, his internal universe would thoroughly rival the Chaos Void. This is also what Lord Mo Su's infinite void theory describes. It's what Lord Mo Su has pursued throughout the ages. Unlike Lin Yuan, once the infinite void reaches this level, it's the limit, approaching the Time Lord. However, Lin Yuan's internal universe, even if it reaches the he size comparable to the Chaos Void, hasn't reached the ultimate goal. It can still continue to ascend. With the fusion of two source worlds' essential operations, Lin Yuan's internal universe possesses an aura of perfection. Its potential so vast, it may approach the possibility of a truly perfect world. I'm almost familiar with the 13th realm time being's methods. Lin Yuan stood up, his gaze profound. The 13th realm time beings have more than just the means to observe future timelines. The essence of life at this level is high enough to revive life that once existed within dimensional spaces. Revive! Lin Yuan didn't hesitate, starting to resurrect beings that had causal connections with him but had died or were as good as dead. In an instant, as far as Lin Yuan's sight reached, a new secret realm was opened up. Within the secret realm, a world was faintly forming, and the beings within quickly transformed from illusion to reality. Lin Yuan's first goal for resurrection was the time loop world he had experienced. Time loop worlds were temporarily established by the supreme rule Tao, essentially indistinguishable from real life, with each person within having their own thoughts. These belonged to lives that truly existed and could be revived by Lin Yuan. Soon, accompanied by the beings of the world becoming entirely real. The time that had stopped when Lin Yuan passed his test began to flow once again. Unlike the time loop world Lin Yuan experienced, the resurrected beings of the time loop world no longer faced constraints of the Tao, allowing them to take more extraordinary paths. You are essentially creations by the supreme rule Tao, and I hope you can forge your own paths. Lin Yuan gazed at the time loop world merged within the chaos void, thinking to himself silently. Reviving the beings within the time loop world was because Lin Yuan couldn't let them vanish just because he passed the test. Even if those beings were also creations due to Lin Yuan's trial. Born because of Lin Yuan and perished because of Lin Yuan. It sounded quite logical. But since he became a time being, he naturally acted according to his heart. If Lin Yuan thought it was unreasonable, then it was unreasonable. After the beings of the time loop world were completely revived, not a single entering Tao master noticed anything unusual. They continued whatever they were doing as before. Compared to Lin Yuan's current life level, the beings in the time loop world were too weak. Song Weiyang. Following a causal line, Lin Yuan looked towards the first pinnacle dominator he encountered upon emerging from the chaos void. At that time, Song Weiyang had perished exploring the ruins of a void, and Lin Yuan had fortuitously discovered the cave left behind, where Song Weiyang's imprint voluntarily offered all the treasures to Lin Yuan. The only request was hoping Lin Yuan could care for the Stone People tribe. Lin Yuan eventually fulfilled this promise. Now, being a time being, he casually resurrected this 12th realm being too. In a void domain, the chubby Song Weiyang looked around in confusion. Didn't I die? Song Weiyang was somewhat puzzled, but then relevant information flooded his mind. Was it the great time life form galaxy that resurrected me? Because my cave dwelling was acquired by him. Song Weiyang widened his eyes. He never expected that the cave dwelling he left behind would play such a significant role, becoming the key to his resurrection. Thank you, great time life form. Song Weiyang immediately bowed respectfully in a certain direction to express his gratitude. He dared not directly gaze upon Lin Yuan's true form, for with his strength, directly observing a time life form's true form might cause his own mind and will to become distorted and corrupted. I'll send you to the Stone People clan. With a thought, Lin Yuan transported Song Weiyang to the current location of the Stone People clan. Stone People clan's secret realm. Song Weiyang's figure appeared out of thin air. Who is it? Song Yulong, also at the peak of the mastery realm, immediately sensed something amiss and appeared nearby in an instant. Is it Uncle Weiyang? Song Yulong looked at Song Weiyang, hardly believing his eyes. Song Weiyang held a high status within the Stone People clan as its previous soul mastery realm peak. Song Yulong was a junior to Song Weiyang. But Song Yulong had already felt the dispersion of Song Weiyang's karma. He had perished. Why would he appear again? And why would the dispersed karma be forcibly re-established? Song Yulong could hardly believe it. As someone with deep fortune, he received the legacy of the great Saint Tuo Dragon when he was weak and survived despite being pursued by the Nine-Sword Venerable. Song Yulong had seen much during his life, yet this scene was still incredibly shocking. Yulong. It was the great time life form that resurrected me. Song Weiyang promptly explained. Great time life form? Song Yulong took a deep breath. Great time life form. Indeed, only a great time life form could resurrect someone of the 12th layer. The cave dwelling I left behind was acquired by the great time life form, which granted me this favor and led to my resurrection. Song Weiyang said with a smile. Is it the galaxy great saint? Song Yulong murmured to himself. If it were an ancient time life form aiming to resurrect Song Weiyang, they would have done so long ago. There would be no need to wait until now. Hence, the time lifeform resurrecting Song Weiyang must only be a newly advanced time lifeform. Lately, two time lifeforms had newly advanced. One is Luo Ho, the other is Galaxy. Luo Ho is an extremely ancient great saint. With Luo Ho's strength, he would have no interest in Song Weiyang's cave dwelling. Galaxy Great Saint? Song Weiyang nodded. The moment he was resurrected, he became aware of Lin Yuan's title. Earlier, when our Stone People clan was imprisoned by the Nine-Sword Venerable, it must have been the work of Galaxy Great Saint too. Song Yulong murmured to himself. At that time, he even set Galaxy Great Saint as his goal, driven by the legacy of the Great Saint Tuo Dragon in him. Looking at it now, he was not even Chaos Realm. Galaxy Great Saint had already stepped into the 13th layer. Even if he hadn't stepped into the 13th layer, the name of Galaxy Great Saint was known throughout the Chaos Void. Outside an isolated, natural cosmos, a woman wearing a light green skirt appeared. A burly, majestic male figure appeared in the distance as well. Xian. The woman in the light green skirt couldn't help calling out when she saw the burly male. Senior sister. The burly male's expression was also full of emotion. What is this? The burly male looked around thoughtfully. Xian, how am I alive? The woman in the light green skirt looked slightly confused. When she died, she was too weak to even be in the Mastery Realm. You were resurrected. I was resurrected too, by the great time life form who captured us. The burly male Xian Huang said softly, lifting his gaze to see a majestic true form gazing down at him. As an invincible great saint, Xian Huang had earned the privilege to look up to the time life form. Using the weapon of the 13th layer, he forced a break in the time loop, an act destined to lead to certain death. Only a time life form of the 13th layer could have resurrected him. But he had no karma with the time life form and lacked any value for resurrection. Forcibly breaking the time loop meant he would never step into the 13th layer. Live well with your senior sister. Lin Yuan's voice echoed beside Xian Huang. Xuan Huang's greatest obsession was his senior sister. To have her back, he willingly gave up the chance to become the 13th layer time life form. Thank you, great time life form. Xian Huang immediately bowed, understanding that Lin Yuan resurrected his senior sister out of respect for him. Otherwise, his senior sister had no karma with Lin Yuan. Even if she were to be resurrected, it wouldn't be her turn. Demon Jade Tower Master. Lin Yuan gazed into the deepest part of the Chaos Void, which belonged to the Demon Jade Tower Master's time loop region. No chance of breaking the time loop. Lin Yuan shook his head lightly. The possibility of passing the time loop test is greatest the first time through. With each additional cycle thereafter, the chances diminish. Now, nearly 10 million cosmic eras had passed since the Demon Jade Tower Master fell into the time loop. The Demon Jade Tower Master, caught in the time loop, had likely undergone countless loops, probably unable to even maintain his self, let alone break the time loop itself. Break! Lin Yuan's expression became slightly serious as he forcibly broke through the time loop that the Demon Jade Tower Master had fallen into. Buzz! The terrifying backlash swept through, yet Lin Yuan easily fended it off. A figure in a black robe was retrieved by Lin Yuan. Freed from the confines of the time loop, the Demon Jade Tower Master quickly regained his senses, and many memories surged back. Thank you, great time life form. The Demon Jade Tower Master immediately bowed to Lin Yuan. Trapped in the time loop, endlessly looping without self-awareness. For any great saint, this was torment. Lin Yuan forcibly shattered the time loop, weathering the backlash of the timeline to rescue him, akin to a resurrection. Didn't expect that the casual creation of Demon Jade space back then would nurture a great time life form. The Demon Jade Tower Master's heart was filled with emotion, having learned everything after emerging from the time loop. Lasted for about half an hour. All the fallen strong ones relating to Lin Yuan from past karma were resurrected. For these resurrected beings, Lin Yuan mostly greeted them, briefly explaining the reason for their revival. Otherwise, being resurrected inexplicably by a great time life form would be dreadfully terrifying for most life forms. That should be about it. Lin Yuan retracted his powers, watching over the newly resurrected beings, all with joyous expressions, feeling quite content himself. When one person steps into the way, they elevate everyone connected to them. Upon crossing into the 13th layer, all life interconnected with his own ought to have a second chance. Given Lin Yuan's current strength and foundation, doing such incurred little cost. Even the backlash from the timeline was easily endured, not affecting him at all. At this moment, Lin Yuan's expression subtly changed. He instantly partitioned a portion of his attention, diving deep into his mind. For now, a mysterious aura began emanating from the grand and magnificent Myriad Realms Gate.